Discussion on verses 1 to 30 of 30. The ultimate meaning of the first verse is unknown to people. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 1.
Alif Lam Mim.
Nevertheless, this may suggest that the Holy Quran is formed from the very Arabic letters and expressions familiar to the Arabs, who were its earliest audience. This shows that they had no valid reason to doubt its divine origin, as they fully understood its language and directly witnessed its unmatched eloquence. Even though they were renowned masters of Arabic and took great pride in their linguistic skill, they could not produce even a single composition comparable to the Holy Quran in depth of meaning, clarity of expression, and perfection of guidance. Their inability to match it, despite possessing every linguistic advantage, remains an enduring and irrefutable proof of its divine origin. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 23.
And if you are in some doubt concerning what we sent down upon our special devotee, then bring one chapter like it, and call upon all your helpers beside Allah if you are truthful.
And chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 3.
Or do they say, He invented it? Rather, it is the truth from your Lord.
This may be the reason why the Holy Quran is referenced immediately in the succeeding verse. Its deliberate positioning underscores that the very scripture revealed to them, a text composed of the same familiar letters and language they regularly employed, serves as the most conclusive proof of its divine source and the most potent answer to their existing skepticism. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 2.
Revelation of the book, about which there is no doubt from the Lord of the worlds.
Even if an individual were to craft the most eloquent and harmonious expression in Arabic, it would still be unable to encompass the vast wisdom found in the Holy Quran concerning human nature, psychology, and moral character. No human composition can ever attain its perfect balance of simplicity and depth, offering insights so profound that scholars devote their lives to studying them, yet so clear that even those without formal education can understand, apply, and be guided by them in their daily lives. No human composition could ever hope to convey abstract and profound truths with the clarity, practicality, and universal relevance manifested in the Holy Quran. It reaches the deepest layers of human nature, offering timeless guidance suited to every individual, every society, and every generation. Each of its verses stands as an undeniable testimony to its divine origin. Its expressions are unmatched, its meanings conveyed with perfect precision, and its eloquence surpasses all other forms of speech. Unlike other scriptures or teachings that contain inconsistencies or contradictions, the Holy Quran is completely free from error. It provides a true and perfect account of the histories of earlier nations, even though the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was unlettered and had received no formal instruction in the knowledge of past peoples. The Holy Quran commands everything that benefits humanity and forbids all that harms it, addressing both personal and societal dimensions of life in a manner that nurtures justice, balance, and peace within homes and communities. It never employs exaggeration, falsehood, or embellishment, unlike poetry, myths, or legends. Every verse is deliberate and purposeful, providing guidance that remains ever fresh and enlightening, no matter how often it is recited. Even when the Holy Quran recounts the same events, it unveils new insights and deeper layers of wisdom each time. Its promises and warnings are supported by clear and rational evidence. When speaking of abstract virtues such as patience, it simultaneously offers simple and practical means to embody them in daily life, making divine guidance both comprehensible and attainable. The Holy Quran calls upon humanity to recognize the true purpose of creation, to sincerely obey Allah the Exalted, by using the blessings granted to them in ways that earn His pleasure. Through this obedience, people attain peace and success in both worlds, finding harmony in mind and body while placing every aspect of life in its proper order. For all who sincerely seek lasting peace and fulfillment, the Holy Quran illuminates the straight path with clarity and beauty. Its guidance, perfectly suited to the nature of humanity, remains timeless and universally relevant. When understood and applied, it offers sound solutions for every dimension of human existence, addressing emotional, financial, and physical challenges, and fulfilling the needs of both individuals and societies. History bears witness to the transformative impact of its teachings, Communities that sincerely lived by its message rose to remarkable heights of justice, wisdom, and peace. Most extraordinary of all is its divine preservation. Across the centuries, not a single letter of the Holy Quran has been altered, for Allah, the Exalted, has promised to safeguard it for all time. Chapter 15 Al-Hijr, verse 9.
Indeed, it is we who sent down the message, i.e. the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian.
No other text in human history carries this extraordinary and unmatched quality. Allah, the Exalted, directly addressed the fundamental challenges faced by every community and provided the most effective and enduring solutions. By resolving these primary issues, the Holy Quran also prevented or alleviated the many secondary problems that arise from them. This reflects the perfection and completeness of its guidance. It contains every essential principle required for the prosperity, stability, and moral upliftment of both individuals and societies. By adhering to its teachings, people attain true success in this world and eternal salvation in the hereafter. Chapter 16 An-Nahl, verse 89.
And we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things.
And chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 2.
Revelation of the book, about which there is no doubt from the Lord of the worlds.
This stands as the most extraordinary and enduring miracle that Allah, the Exalted, bestowed upon His final messenger, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Yet its guidance and benefit are granted only to those who approach it with sincerity, humility, and a genuine longing for truth. Those who allow their desires and worldly inclinations to govern them, accepting only what aligns with their preferences while disregarding or rejecting what does not, ultimately deprive themselves of its transformative power. Such selective obedience leads only to confusion, loss, and regret, both in this world and in the hereafter. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 82.
And we send down of the Quran that which is healing and mercy for the believers, but it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss.
Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 1.
Alif Lam Mim.
This chapter of the Holy Quran, like many others, begins with disjointed letters whose exact meanings are known only to Allah, the Exalted. Their presence serves as a profound reminder of the limits of human understanding and the necessity of humility when approaching divine revelation. These letters affirm that the Holy Quran is not the product of human intellect, but a direct revelation from Allah, the Exalted. When individuals acknowledge the limits of their own reasoning, they open their hearts to receive the deeper wisdom contained within the Holy Quran. Those who approach it with arrogance, relying solely on their intellect and rejecting anything beyond their comprehension, often fall into doubt and confusion. When they encounter verses whose wisdom exceeds human understanding, they may turn to denial or distortion. This arises not from any imperfection in the Holy Quran but from their own pride, which prevents them from perceiving the truth. The relationship between a person and the Holy Quran can be likened to that of a humble student and a wise teacher. A sincere student benefits even from lessons that are difficult or not immediately understood, and over time clarity appears. The arrogant student, however, who accepts only what conforms to their existing knowledge, deprives themselves of genuine learning. In the same way, only those who approach the Holy Quran with humility and reverence will fully benefit from its guidance. Such humility brings tranquility to the heart, aligning a person's mind and body with divine wisdom. It helps them recognize the rightful place of everything and everyone in their life, according to the order established by Allah, the Exalted. Thus, humility before the Holy Quran is not merely an intellectual approach, it is the pathway to balance, serenity, and lasting success in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 1.
Alif Lam Mim.
The basis of all learning is built from letters, and for this reason, the opening of this chapter may also serve as a reminder of the essential place that knowledge holds in a person's life. It points to the reality that understanding is necessary for both worldly matters and spiritual development. Every person is responsible for seeking and applying knowledge that is truly beneficial, as emphasized in the hadith found in Sunan Ibn Majah, number 224. Ignorance naturally leads to error and misguidance, for without proper understanding, one cannot clearly distinguish right from wrong or protect themselves from harmful choices. Yet simply possessing knowledge does not guarantee benefit. Its true worth appears only when it is put into practice. Knowledge without action resembles a map that is never followed. While it may describe the route to success, it cannot bring anyone to the destination unless they walk the path it outlines. Just as a traveler must take the steps shown on a map, a person must act upon what they know in order to receive true guidance and inner growth. Beneficial knowledge should therefore be both acquired and lived. It should shape a person's character, purify their motives, and guide their conduct. When understanding is expressed through action, it becomes a source of illumination, brightening the path of the one who carries it and influencing others for the better. Through sincere effort in both seeking and applying beneficial knowledge, a person attains success in this life and ultimate salvation in the hereafter. Chapter 62 Al-Jumu'ah, verse 5.
And then did not take it on, did not act upon knowledge, is like that of a donkey who carries volumes of books.
The highest and most profound form of knowledge granted to humanity is highlighted in the following verse, showing that all other knowledge ultimately culminates in and finds perfection through the divine knowledge contained in the Holy Quran. This knowledge is unlike any other, for it offers complete guidance for every dimension of human life, addressing both worldly and spiritual needs. It is not partial, speculative, or limited, but comprehensive and eternal. By adhering to it, individuals attain a balanced mental and physical state, and they learn to properly order everything and everyone within their lives. This ordering ensures that blessings are used correctly, responsibilities are fulfilled, and relationships are maintained with justice and compassion. The result is success in this world through peace of mind and harmony, and success in the hereafter through salvation and eternal reward. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 2.
Revelation of the Book.
This verse further supports the unique status of the Holy Quran by referring to it as the book, as it is not merely a collection of words, but a structured repository of knowledge, containing both law and wisdom. The law is the code of conduct people must live by, so that they correctly use the blessings they have been granted. It provides clear boundaries and obligations, ensuring that individuals fulfill the rights of Allah, the Exalted, and the rights of people. By following this law, peace of mind is achieved, and society is safeguarded from injustice and corruption. The law therefore ensures the spread of peace and justice within society, as it establishes fairness and accountability in every sphere of life. Wisdom, on the other hand, is equally essential, for it teaches people how to correctly apply their knowledge, such as the law, so that it benefits them and others in both worlds. Wisdom refines the application of law, guiding people to act with sincerity, compassion, and foresight. It prevents rigidity and misuse, ensuring that the law is not reduced to mere technicalities, but is lived with understanding and purpose. Both law and wisdom are required in order to create a just and peaceful society. The law without wisdom can be easily misinterpreted, as people may exploit loopholes within the law to wrong others or to serve their own interests. Such misuse undermines justice and corrupts society. Wisdom without the law is equally dangerous, for it causes people to adopt a code of conduct based on their own definitions of what is correct and upright. Human definitions are always limited by biases, desires, and incomplete knowledge. As discussed earlier, all man-made codes of conduct will never lead to peace of mind due to a lack of knowledge, experience, foresight, and impartiality. Even when intentions are good, human systems remain flawed, inconsistent, and subject to change. Therefore, wisdom without the law will also prevent one from achieving peace of mind, and it will obstruct the spread of peace and justice within society, as people will inevitably fail to fulfill the rights of others. The Holy Quran, by combining both law and wisdom, provides humanity with a perfect framework. It ensures that people know what is required of them, and how to apply it in a way that nurtures justice, compassion, and balance. This divine combination is what makes the Holy Quran the highest and most profound form of knowledge, surpassing all other forms of human learning. It is the only source that guarantees peace of mind in this world, and eternal success in the hereafter. The leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, much like the opponents of the holy prophets, peace be upon them, in earlier generations, employed various strategies to discourage people from accepting Islam. Their resistance was rooted in fear of losing their leadership, authority, and social influence. They understood that if people embraced Islam, their unjust practices, privileges, and dominance over society would collapse, and their positions of power would be stripped away. In their desperation, they resorted to false accusations, ridicule, and slander, in order to undermine the credibility of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the message he brought. One such method was to accuse him of authoring the Holy Quran himself, claiming that it was a product of his imagination, rather than divine revelation. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 3.
Or do they say he invented it?
This was a foolish and contradictory claim. The non-Muslims of Mecca were masters of the Arabic language, renowned for their eloquence, poetry, and oratory. They prided themselves on their ability to compose verses of great beauty and sophistication. Yet even they recognized that the Holy Quran could not be the words of a human being. Its depth, style, and perfection were beyond human capacity. Its rhythm, wisdom, and unmatched eloquence surpassed anything they or their poets could produce. Furthermore, they had lived alongside the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for 40 years prior to his announcement of prophethood. During this time, they had witnessed his honesty, integrity, and noble character. He was never known to deceive, fabricate, or mislead. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
This verse highlights the irrationality of their denial. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had lived among them for decades without ever being accused of dishonesty or falsehood. His sudden claim to prophethood, accompanied by the unmatched eloquence and wisdom of the Holy Quran, could not reasonably be dismissed as fabrication. The people of Mecca knew his character intimately, and they knew he was not a deceiver. Their accusation was therefore not based on truth but on fear and arrogance, as they sought to protect their worldly power and influence. Moreover, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no interaction with previous divine scriptures, a truth recognized by both the people of the book and the non-Muslims of Mecca. He was not known to have studied the Torah or the Gospel, nor did he have access to the modified or original teachings found in these texts. He was unlettered, unable to read or write, and therefore could not have authored a book of such depth and perfection. This reality further supports the divine origins of the Holy Quran, for its narratives, wisdom, and guidance align with the eternal truths revealed to earlier holy prophets, peace be upon them, while correcting distortions and restoring clarity. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
And chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 3.
Or do they say he invented it? Rather, it is the truth from your Lord, that you may warn a people to whom no warner has come before you, so perhaps they will be committed to right guidance.
In reality, every person who abandons the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and instead adopts man-made systems of conduct, does so in order to gratify their worldly desires. This is because all codes devised by human beings are ultimately rooted in human inclinations, ambitions, and self-interest. Unlike the divine law, which is based on wisdom, justice, and mercy, man-made systems are shaped by the desires of those who create them. They reflect the limitations of human knowledge and the biases of human perspective, often serving the interests of particular groups rather than the collective good. The divine law, on the other hand, is free from partiality and error, for it emanates from the Creator who knows all things. It is designed to protect the rights of every individual, to establish balance in society, and to nurture both the spiritual and material well-being of humanity. The wealthy and powerful are often the most entrenched in this mindset of rejecting divine guidance. They recognize that accepting the truth of Islam would require them to submit to a higher moral framework, one that places limits on their pursuit of unchecked desires. Such submission would restrict their exploitation of others, their indulgence in excess, and their misuse of authority. It would demand accountability, humility, and justice, qualities that threaten their worldly privileges. Out of fear of losing their influence and status, They not only reject the truth themselves, but also actively encourage others to follow their lead. They use their wealth, position, and influence to spread doubt, ridicule, and opposition, attempting to preserve their worldly status, even at the expense of their eternal well-being. Their rejection is not born of ignorance but a deliberate resistance, as they prefer temporary power over everlasting salvation. This pattern is not new. Historically, the first to oppose the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were often the elites of society, those who feared that embracing divine guidance would undermine their power and expose their injustices. From Pharaoh in the time of the holy prophet Musa, peace be upon him, to the leaders of non-Muslims of Mecca in the time of the holy prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the opposition of the powerful has been a recurring theme. Their rejection was not based on a lack of evidence or clarity regarding the truth of the message, for the signs of Allah, the Exalted, were manifest before them. Miracles, scriptures, and the noble character of the prophets were clear proofs that could not be denied. Yet, their arrogance and pride blinded them, and their desire to continue living according to their whims prevented them from submitting to the authority of the Creator. Thus, the rejection of divine guidance is rarely an intellectual dispute about truth or falsehood. Instead, it is most often a matter of the heart, a refusal to restrain one's desires and submit to the authority of Allah, the Exalted. The human heart, when corrupted by arrogance and greed, resists discipline and accountability. It seeks freedom without responsibility, pleasure without restraint, and power without justice. This inner corruption leads people to dismiss divine guidance, not because they lack evidence, but because they lack humility. True faith requires submission, sincerity, and the willingness to place divine wisdom above personal desire. Those who reject it do so because they are unwilling to let go of their worldly attachments, preferring temporary indulgence over eternal peace. After mentioning the Holy Quran as the supreme sign of His oneness, Allah, the Exalted, turns attention to the signs within the creation that point to the same truth. These signs demonstrate that He alone is the one who must be obeyed and followed in every circumstance. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 4.
It is Allah who created the heavens and the earth, and whatever is between them in 6 days.
Allah, the Exalted, had the absolute power to create the heavens and the earth in an instant, without effort or delay. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 117.
When He decrees a matter, He only says to it, be, and it is.
This verse establishes the limitless authority of Allah, the Exalted, whose command alone brings existence into being. Yet, one of the profound insights regarding the creation of the heavens and the earth over a span of 6 days is to impart to humanity the significant lesson of gradually striving towards a greater objective. Allah, the Exalted, does not demand that individuals attain saintliness in an instant. Rather, He expects them to learn, grow, and implement the teachings of Islam progressively. This gradual process enables them to enhance their conduct towards Him and His creation, step by step, cultivating sincerity, discipline, and perseverance. Just as creation unfolded in stages, so too must human development in faith and character unfold through consistent effort and patience. Although a person has no justification for neglecting their obligatory duties or for failing to learn and adhere to the established traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, it is important for each person to act in accordance with their own mental and physical capabilities. Furthermore, they should treat others with consideration for their mental and physical capacities, ensuring that they do not overwhelm them or cause them to feel disheartened with Islam. The religion is meant to uplift and guide, not to burden or discourage. By recognizing the varying strengths of people, one can encourage others in a balanced and compassionate manner, fostering unity and perseverance in the community. It is essential to recognize that every individual has been created in a unique manner and endowed with various blessings and gifts. For instance, some individuals possess the strength to undertake numerous voluntary fasts, while others may not. Some have the mental fortitude to dedicate an entire day to studying the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, whereas others may lack this capability. Some can engage in discussions about religious matters for extended periods, while others may not have the focus or mental resilience to do so. This diversity of strengths is part of divine wisdom, and it does not imply that those who lack the ability to engage in certain voluntary practices are poor believers. Allah, the Exalted, will evaluate each individual based on their potential, their strength, their intentions, and the actions they have undertaken. This discourse, therefore, suggests that a person should not be overly critical of themselves or others regarding their efforts in voluntary religious practices. A person should aim to make gradual improvements, step by step, so that they do not become disheartened and abandon their efforts entirely. If a person has been blessed with the strength to engage in voluntary religious activities, they should express gratitude to Allah, the Exalted, for it is only He who has bestowed this upon them. Recognizing this will help avert the grave sin of pride, as even a minuscule amount of it can lead one to hell. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, warned of this in a hadith recorded in Sahih Muslim, number 265, which states that no one who has even the smallest amount of pride in their heart will enter paradise. Thus, the gradual creation of the universe serves as a reminder that faith and righteousness are cultivated through steady effort, humility, and gratitude. Just as the cosmos was perfected in stages, so too must the person perfect their conduct through patience, sincerity, and reliance upon Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 4.
It is Allah who created the heavens and the earth, and whatever is between them in 6 days.
When one reflects deeply upon the creation of the heavens and the earth, and upon the countless perfectly balanced systems that operate within them, it becomes evident that there is only one Creator who brought all of this into existence and who continues to sustain it. Every aspect of the universe testifies to precision, harmony, and wisdom that cannot be the product of chance or human design. Consider, for example, the distance of the Sun from the Earth. It is positioned at exactly the right distance to allow life to flourish. If the Sun were even slightly closer, the Earth would be scorched and rendered uninhabitable. If it were slightly further away, the Earth would freeze and life would cease. This delicate balance is not accidental, but intentional, a sign of divine power. Similarly, the Earth has been created with an atmosphere that is perfectly balanced and pure, enabling life to thrive. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 164.
And the alternation of the night and the day.
The alternation of day and night is itself a profound sign of divine wisdom. The precise timings of the days and nights, and their varied lengths throughout the year, allow humanity to obtain maximum benefit from them. If the days were longer, people would become exhausted from extended hours of activity. If the nights were longer, people would not have sufficient time to earn their livelihood, pursue knowledge, or engage in beneficial activities. If the nights were shorter, people would not be able to rest enough to maintain optimal health. Furthermore, changes to the length of the day and night would affect crops, leading to detrimental consequences for the provision of people and animals. The fact that the days and nights, along with other balanced systems within the universe, operate in perfect harmony clearly indicates the oneness of Allah, the Exalted. If there were multiple gods, each desiring different outcomes, the universe would fall into chaos. Chapter 21 Al-Anbiya, verse 22.
Had there been within them, i.e., the heavens and earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined.
The water cycle is another clear sign of divine design. Water evaporates from the sea, rises and condenses to produce rain. This rain, though acidic in nature, falls upon mountains which neutralize it, making it safe for human and animal consumption. If this system were altered even slightly, life on earth would be endangered. The salt in the sea prevents the dead creatures within it from contaminating the water. If the oceans were allowed to become polluted, sea life would not be possible, and the impurity would spread to the land, overwhelming all forms of life. Furthermore, the composition of water has been created in such a way that it allows sea life to thrive within it, while also enabling heavy ships to sail upon it. If the composition were altered, either sea life would survive, but ships could not sail, or ships could sail, but sea life would perish. Even today, sea transport remains the most common method of transporting goods across the world. This perfect balance is therefore essential to life on earth, and is a clear sign of divine wisdom. The winds are also indispensable for life. They enable wind pollination, allowing crops, plants, and trees to reproduce. In earlier times, winds were essential for sea travel, and even today, sea transport remains the primary mode of transporting goods across the world. Winds also move rain clouds to specific locations, providing water for creation, something indispensable for survival. A perfectly balanced system of winds is observed within the earth. A lack of winds would lead to stagnation and chaos, while excessive winds would cause destruction and imbalance. Similarly, rain is also perfectly balanced. Too little rain leads to droughts and famine, while too much rain leads to mass floods. Chapter 23 Al-Mu'minin, verse 18.
And we have sent down rain from the sky in a measured amount and settled it in the earth. And indeed, we are able to take it away.
When one observes the countless species of creation, it becomes clear that they have been designed in a perfectly balanced way to thrive in their environments. Evolution, being a process of mutation, is by its nature imperfect. Yet the design of species demonstrates perfection and balance. For example, the camel was created to withstand high temperatures and survive long periods without water. It is perfectly suited for desert life. Chapter 88 Al-Ghashiyah, verse 17.
Then do they not look at the camels, how they are created?
Similarly, the goat was created in such a way that impurities within its body are separated from the milk it produces. Any mixing of the two would render the milk undrinkable. Chapter 16 An-Nahl, verse 66.
And indeed for you in grazing livestock is a lesson. We give you drink from what is in their bellies, between excretion and blood, pure milk palatable to drinkers.
Each species has also been granted a specific lifespan, which prevents one species from overwhelming others. For example, flies have a very short lifespan of 3 to 4 weeks and lay up to 500 eggs. If their lifespan were longer, their population would become disproportionate and overwhelm all other species. Conversely, creatures with longer lifespans produce only a few offspring, ensuring moderation in their population. This balance prevents chaos and sustains harmony among species. Such precision cannot be accidental, nor can blind mutation explain it. The one who reflects on all these perfectly balanced systems, and countless more within creation, cannot logically deny the existence of a single creator who has power over all things. The harmony of the universe, from the smallest detail to the grandest system, testifies to the oneness of Allah, the Exalted, and His absolute control over creation. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 4.
Then he established himself above the throne.
Ultimately, as the entire creation belongs to and is under the complete control and jurisdiction of Allah, the Exalted, a person has no choice but to comply with His rules. His authority is absolute, extending over the heavens, the earth, and everything in between. Every atom, every breath, and every moment of existence is subject to His command. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 5.
He arranges each matter from the heaven to the earth.
To imagine that one can live outside His law is a delusion, for His sovereignty encompasses all things. Just as a person will face trouble if they fail to comply with the rules set by the government in charge of a particular country, so too will they face trouble in both worlds if they fail to comply with the rules of the owner of the universe. The comparison is clear. Worldly governments may enforce laws within their borders, but Allah, the Exalted, governs all creation without exception. His laws are not confined to a region or a people. They are universal, eternal, and binding upon every soul. A person may be able to leave a country if they are not pleased with its rules, but they will not be able to escape to a place where the rules and jurisdiction of Allah, the Exalted, do not apply. His dominion is limitless, and there is no refuge beyond His reach. A person may be able to change the rules of their society through legislation or reform, but they will never be able to change the rules of Allah, the Exalted. His decrees are fixed, perfect, and eternal, unaffected by human whims or desires. To attempt to alter them is futile, for they are rooted in divine wisdom and justice. In addition, just like a person who owns a house decides the rules of the house, even if other people object to these rules, similarly, the universe belongs to Allah, the Exalted, and therefore, He alone decides the rules of this universe, whether people like these rules or not. Ownership naturally entails authority, and since Allah, the Exalted, is the sole creator and sustainer of the universe, He alone has the right to legislate its laws. To object to his rules is to deny his ownership, which is both irrational and futile. Therefore, one must comply with these rules, not for his benefit, for he is beyond need, but for their own sake, as compliance ensures peace, balance, and salvation. The one who understands this fact will comply with the rules of Allah, the Exalted, and strive to obey Him by using the blessings they have been granted in ways pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such a person recognizes that blessings are not given for indulgence or waste, but as trusts to be used responsibly. They will seek to align their actions with divine guidance, knowing that obedience brings harmony in this world and reward in the hereafter. A person can either strive to learn the wisdoms behind the commands and prohibitions of Allah, the Exalted, so that they understand how these benefit them and the wider society, leading to peace of mind and body in both worlds, or they can worship their desires and reject the teachings of Islam. The choice is stark: submission to divine wisdom or enslavement to fleeting passions. Those who strive to understand will see how divine laws protect individuals, families, and societies, while those who reject them will find themselves trapped in cycles of imbalance and regret. But the one who fails to comply with Islamic rules should prepare themselves to face the consequences of their choice in both worlds, and no objections, protests, or complaints will save them. On the Day of Judgment, excuses will carry no weight, and human arguments will be silenced before the truth. Chapter 32 Sajdah, verse 4.
You have not besides him any protector or any intercessor, so will you not reflect?
Chapter 32 Sajdah, verse 5.
He arranges each matter from the heaven to the earth.
In general, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, emphasized the boundless and supreme authority of Allah, the Exalted, in a hadith documented in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2516. This hadith conveys that no aspect of creation can aid an individual unless it is the will of Allah, the Exalted. Similarly, the entirety of creation cannot cause harm to someone if Allah, the Exalted, does not allow it. This highlights that only what Allah, the Exalted, ordains takes place in the universe, and nothing occurs outside His decree. It is essential to comprehend that this guidance does not imply one should refrain from utilizing means, such as medicine or other worldly resources. Rather, it suggests that one may employ these means as they have been established by Allah, the Exalted, while also acknowledging that Allah, the Exalted, is the ultimate arbiter of all outcomes. For example, many sick individuals take medicine and recover from their conditions. Conversely, there are those who take medicine and do not experience improvement. This demonstrates that another element influences the final outcome, specifically, the will of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 9 at Tawbah, verse 51.
Say, never will we be struck except by what Allah has decreed for us.
The person who comprehends this realizes that all events impacting them, which are not directly connected to their behavior, were unavoidable. In the same way, the opportunities that were lost could not have been seized, for they were never decreed for that individual. This recognition instills humility and patience, reminding one that their control is limited and that ultimate authority rests with Allah, the Exalted. It is crucial to understand that regardless of the final outcome, even if it contradicts an individual's wishes, they ought to remain patient and genuinely trust that Allah, the Exalted, has selected what is most beneficial for them, even if they cannot grasp the reasoning behind the result. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
When one genuinely comprehends this truth, they cease to depend on creation, realizing that creation cannot inherently inflict harm or provide benefit to them. Instead, they turn to Allah, the Exalted, seeking His assistance and protection through sincere obedience by fulfilling His commands, avoiding His prohibitions, and confronting destiny with patience according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This inspires a person to place their trust in Allah, the Exalted, and to fear only Him, as they understand that creation cannot harm them without His will. Recognizing that everything that happens in one's life and the universe stems from Allah, the Exalted, is part of grasping the oneness of Allah, the Exalted. This topic is boundless and transcends merely superficially believing, that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, the Exalted. When this belief is deeply entrenched in one's heart, they will solely rely on Allah, the Exalted, knowing He is the only one capable of assisting them. They will submit to and obey Allah, the Exalted, in every aspect of their life. In truth, a person obeys another to seek protection from harm or to gain some advantage. Only Allah, the Exalted, can provide this, making Him the sole entity deserving of obedience and worship. If anyone opts to obey another over Allah, the Exalted, it implies they believe that this other can offer them some form of benefit or shield them from harm. This reflects a weakness in their faith, and a failure to grasp the true source of all outcomes. The origin of all events is Allah, the Exalted. Thus every person should exclusively obey Him, for He alone is the source of benefit and protection, and He alone is worthy of worship. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 107.
And if Allah should touch you with adversity, there is no remover of it except Him, and if He intends for you good, then there is no repeller of His bounty.
In order to avoid a self-centered attitude, whereby one behaves as though they are the center of the universe, a person must first realize the vastness of the universe, and the countless matters which are constantly occurring around them. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 5.
He arranges each matter from the heaven to the earth, then it will ascend to Him in a day, the extent of which is 1,000 years of those which you count.
This verse teaches that Allah, the Exalted, is continuously managing the affairs of creation, from the heavens to the earth, in ways far beyond human comprehension. It therefore encourages one to appreciate the wider universe, rather than focusing solely on their own life and issues. The lesson is that the universe is vast, filled with countless events and processes, all arranged by divine wisdom. One of the main causes of impatience at the onset of difficulty is precisely this narrow focus. When people lose sight of the bigger picture of life, they magnify their problems. Every situation a person faces is like a single jigsaw piece compared to the whole puzzle. When one focuses entirely on that single piece, which often represents a difficulty, they lose sight of the entire puzzle. As a result, the difficulty appears much more serious than it truly is, and its negative consequences seem more severe than they actually are. This narrow focus hinders one from demonstrating patience, which requires avoiding complaints through speech or actions while maintaining sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted. One of the best ways to avoid this outcome is to constantly focus on the Day of Judgment. This perspective helps one to understand that their worldly problem or difficulty is not such a big deal, for no earthly difficulty compares to the difficulties of Judgment Day. Nor are the negative consequences of worldly trials more severe than those of Judgment Day. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, warned in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2421, that on that day the sun will be brought within 2 miles of creation, and each person will sweat according to their deeds. This is a day when the same relatives one stressed about and desperately tried to please will flee from them. Chapter 80 Abasa, verses 33 to 37.
But when there comes the deafening blast, on the day a man will flee from his brother, and his mother and his father, and his wife and his children. For every man that day will be a matter adequate for him.
It is also a day when one will reflect over their deeds after they witness hell. Chapter 89 Al-Fajr, verse 23.
And brought within view that day is hell. That day man will remember, but how, i.e., what good to him will be the remembrance.
When one focuses on this day, their worldly problem and difficulty will not seem like a big deal. This attitude will aid them in demonstrating patience from the onset of the difficulty, and to evaluate and deal with it in an appropriate manner which minimizes their stress. When one focuses on this day, their worldly problems and difficulties will not seem overwhelming. This attitude aids them in demonstrating patience from the very onset of hardship, enabling them to evaluate and deal with it in an appropriate manner that minimizes stress and prevents despair. By keeping their attention on the eternal realities, they will not allow temporary trials to dominate their perspective, and they will be able to endure with dignity and faith. In addition, keeping one's focus on Judgment Day ensures that they turn away from, ignore, and belittle anything which will not seem important on that day, including the difficulties and stresses of worldly life. Instead, they will focus on the matters that will truly matter on Judgment Day, such as demonstrating patience in the face of trials, fulfilling obligations, and maintaining obedience. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 10.
Indeed, the patient will be given their reward without account, i.e., limit.
This verse highlights the immeasurable reward awaiting those who remain steadfast in patience. Perhaps this correct attitude was part of the reason why the magicians of Pharaoh, after accepting faith, were not fazed or discouraged by the threats of physical torture given by Pharaoh. Their hearts were focused on the day of judgment, and thus the threats of worldly suffering seemed insignificant compared to the eternal realities awaiting them. Their example demonstrates how focusing on the hereafter transforms fear into courage, despair into hope, and weakness into strength. Chapter 26 Ash-Shu'ara, verses 49 to 50.
Pharaoh said, "You believed him, i.e. Moses, before I gave you permission. Indeed, he is your leader who has taught you magic, but you are going to know. I will surely cut off your hands and your feet on opposite sides, and I will surely crucify you all." They said, "No harm. Indeed, to our Lord we will return."
Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 5.
He arranges each matter from the heaven to the earth, then it will ascend to him in a day, the extent of which is 1,000 years of those which you count.
This verse also encourages one to understand that matters within the universe, including being granted relief from a difficulty, do not unfold according to the timetable of human beings, but rather according to the timetable set by Allah, the Exalted. Human beings often desire immediate solutions, quick relief, or instant success, but the reality is that the unfolding of events is not dictated by their wishes. Instead, it is arranged by Allah the Exalted, who governs all affairs with perfect wisdom. His decree is not random, nor is it delayed without purpose. Rather, it is measured and precise, ensuring that every occurrence takes place at the most beneficial time. This perspective teaches humility, reminding people that their knowledge is limited, while Allah, the Exalted, knows the unseen, the future, and the consequences of every action. As Allah, the Exalted, is all-knowing, He knows when and how things should occur to ensure the maximum benefit for people, even if the wisdom behind His choice remains hidden from them. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verses 6 to 7.
That is the knower of the unseen and the witnessed, the exalted in might, the merciful, who perfected everything which He created.
What may appear to be delay or denial is, in reality, a carefully measured act of mercy and planning. Sometimes, relief is postponed so that a person may grow in patience, strengthen their reliance upon Allah the Exalted, or learn lessons that will benefit them in the future. At other times, what a person perceives as hardship is in fact a protection from greater harm. The human mind cannot always grasp these subtleties, but faith requires trust in the one who sees the entire picture. Just as a physician prescribes bitter medicine for healing, Allah, the Exalted, may decree hardship to bring about long-term benefit. Therefore, one must recognize their role during times of difficulty, to remain patient, to avoid complaining verbally or physically, and to continue in sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Complaining through words or actions reflects discontent with divine decree, whereas patience demonstrates trust in the one who knows best. Patience is not passive resignation but active endurance, where a person restrains themselves from despair and continues to fulfill their obligations. Obedience during hardship is a sign of faith, as it shows that a person values divine guidance above their own desires. This obedience includes correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted them, as outlined in Islamic teachings, whether those blessings are health, wealth, knowledge, or relationships. By employing these blessings in ways pleasing to Him, a person demonstrates gratitude and submission even in the midst of trial. Entrusting the exact timing at divine aid to Allah, the Exalted, is essential, for human beings have no say in the matter. Relief will come not when they demand it, but when Allah, the Exalted, decrees it. This trust liberates the heart from anxiety and despair, as it shifts reliance from the self to the Creator. It teaches that divine aid is never late, nor is it ever misplaced. It arrives precisely when it is most beneficial. Thus, one's responsibility is not to dictate the timing of relief, but to remain steadfast in patience, obedience, and gratitude until Allah, the Exalted, unveils His wisdom. In this way, trials become opportunities for growth, and waiting becomes an act of worship. In order to further emphasize His absolute control and perfect knowledge, Allah, the Exalted, draws the attention of humanity to their humble beginnings. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verses 7 to 8.
And began the creation of man from clay. Then he made his posterity out of the extract of a liquid disdained.
This reminder is deeply significant, for it strips away any illusion of grandeur or self-importance that a person may hold about themselves. The one who was created from clay and then from a liquid regarded as disdained has no right to challenge the authority of Allah, the Exalted, who is their creator, sustainer, and ultimate judge. Reflecting upon one's origin is essential in order to avoid the destructive trait of pride. Pride encourages a person to reject the truth when it contradicts their desires, such as the command to obey Allah, the Exalted. No amount of good deeds will benefit someone who possesses pride, for pride corrupts sincerity and blinds the heart. This reality is made clear when one considers the example of the devil, who despite countless years of worship, was destroyed by his arrogance. His pride nullified his devotion, showing that worship without humility is worthless. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 34.
And mention when we said to the angels, prostrate before Adam, so they prostrated except for Iblis. He refused and was arrogant and became of the disbelievers.
The proud person is the one who rejects the truth when it is presented to them, simply because it did not originate from them, or because it challenges their desires and mentality. Pride manifests as a false sense of superiority, even though the proud are unaware of their true status in the sight of Allah, the Exalted. They may believe they are great because of a few insincere and imperfect good deeds, while in reality they are disliked by Allah, the Exalted, because of their many sins. Looking down upon others is especially foolish, as one is unaware of their own ultimate end and the ultimate end of others. The person they despise may die as a sincere believer, whereas they themselves may die as a disbeliever. Pride blinds one to this reality, leading them to arrogance and destruction. In truth, it is irrational to be proud of anything, since Allah, the Exalted, created and granted everything a person owns. Even the righteous deeds one performs are only possible due to the inspiration, knowledge, and strength granted by Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, being proud of something which does not innately belong to oneself is plain foolishness. It is akin to a person becoming proud over a mansion they neither own nor live in. Such pride is baseless and delusional, for it attributes ownership and greatness to oneself when it truly belongs to Allah, the Exalted. This is why pride belongs solely to Allah, the Exalted, as He alone is the creator and innate owner of all things. To challenge Allah, the Exalted, in pride is to usurp His right, and such a person will be thrown into hell. This has been confirmed in a hadith found in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4090, which warns that pride is a characteristic that leads to eternal ruin. Pride is therefore not a minor flaw, but a grave sin that distances a person from mercy and draws them closer to punishment. A person should instead follow in the footsteps of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and adopt humility. The humble truly recognize that all the good they possess, and all the evil they are protected from, comes from no one except Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, humility is more fitting for a person than pride. One should not be deceived into believing that humility leads to disgrace, for no one has been more honored than the humble servants of Allah, the Exalted. In fact, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, guaranteed an increase in status for the one who adopts humility for the sake of Allah, the Exalted, in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2029. A humble person accepts the truth irrespective of who it comes from, knowing that the source of truth is none other than Allah, the Exalted. Instead of looking down on others, they look upon them with mercy and compassion, supporting this attitude with sincere actions. They hope that Allah, the Exalted, will in turn look upon them with mercy and compassion. They understand that one will be treated by Allah, the Exalted, according to how they treat others. This principle has been indicated in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 7376, which teaches that divine treatment mirrors human treatment of others. Thus, humility is not only a virtue but a safeguard, ensuring that one remains beloved to Allah, the Exalted, and protected from the destructive consequences of pride. After creating people from a mere drop of fluid, Allah, the Exalted, shaped them in a balanced, complete, and beautiful form, and then granted them countless blessings. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 9.
Then he proportioned him and breathed into him from his created soul, and made for you hearing and insight and emotional hearts. Little are you grateful.
Allah, the Exalted, has granted people these precious faculties, hearing, sight, and hearts capable of reflection, so that they may discern the difference between the outcomes of obedience and the consequences of disobedience. These gifts are not given without purpose. They are tools to recognize truth, to internalize it, and to act upon it. Yet, simply possessing these faculties is not sufficient. Hearing alone does not benefit a person unless it is directed toward useful knowledge, particularly religious guidance. To hear without listening, to listen without reflecting, and to reflect without acting is to squander the very blessings that distinguish humanity from other creatures. To truly gain from Islamic teachings, a person must listen attentively, with humility and sincerity. They must allow the words of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to penetrate beyond the ear and into the heart. This requires reflection upon one's own experiences, considering how divine guidance applies to their personal life, and then earnestly acting upon it. Knowledge that is not lived becomes a burden rather than a blessing, for it increases accountability without producing transformation. Without such reflection and action, merely hearing Islamic knowledge will not transform behavior. This explains why, despite unprecedented access to Islamic knowledge today, through books, lectures, digital platforms, and countless resources, many still fail to achieve meaningful personal change. The issue is not the absence of knowledge, but the absence of attentiveness, humility, and application. Information alone does not produce faith. It is the combination of listening, reflecting, and acting that turns knowledge into guidance. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 9.
And made for you hearing and insight.
Allah, the Exalted, has also granted human beings the profound faculty of sight, coupled with understanding. This gift is not limited to the mere ability to perceive shapes and colors. Rather, it is a means of reflection, discernment, and learning. Through it, a person is able to observe the world around them, contemplate the circumstances of others, and draw lessons from history. It is a faculty that transforms observation into wisdom, allowing one to recognize patterns of behavior, consequences of actions, and the signs of divine power manifest in creation. By observing the experiences of others, people can gain valuable insight into their own conduct. For instance, when one witnesses the lives of wealthy or famous individuals who misuse the blessings of Allah, the Exalted, they often see that such misuse leads to stress, mental health struggles, addiction, or even suicidal tendencies, despite the temporary comfort or luxury these individuals enjoy. These observations serve as a clear warning. True peace of mind does not come from material possessions or the unchecked pursuit of worldly desires. Wealth and fame, when divorced from gratitude and obedience, become sources of misery rather than happiness. Similarly, seeing someone suffer from poor health encourages gratitude for one's own well-being. It reminds a person that health is a fragile blessing, easily lost, and therefore must be cherished and utilized properly before it disappears. Observing illness or disability should inspire one to use their strength in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, whether through worship, service to others, or the pursuit of beneficial knowledge. In this way, sight becomes a tool not only for perceiving the external world, but for cultivating internal awareness and gratitude. These faculties, when used correctly, cultivate vigilance. They discourage self-absorption and remind individuals that life is not confined to their personal concerns. Instead, they inspire awareness of the wider world, of the struggles and blessings of others, and of the lessons embedded in creation. This broader perspective protects against arrogance and heedlessness, guiding a person to humility, compassion, and obedience. To see with understanding is to recognize that every observation carries a lesson, every circumstance a reminder, and every event an opportunity to draw closer to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 9.
I made for you hearing and insight and emotional hearts.
Allah, the Exalted, has further provided human beings with emotional faculties, which are indispensable for navigating the complexities of life successfully. These faculties are not weaknesses, nor are they flaws in human nature. Rather, they are purposeful gifts that allow people to experience, process, and respond to the trials and blessings of existence. Islam recognizes the human need to express emotions, such as sadness in times of hardship or joy in moments of ease. Expressing emotions is therefore permissible and natural, provided it remains within the boundaries set by Allah, the Exalted. These boundaries ensure that emotions serve their intended purpose, bringing balance, compassion, and sincerity, without leading to excess or harm. Extremes in emotion, however, can lead to sinful behavior and spiritual decline. Excessive grief may cause despair, ingratitude, or neglect of one's duties, while excessive pride may lead to arrogance, boastfulness, and disregard for others. Chapter 57 Al-Hadid, verse 23.
In order that you not despair over what has eluded you and not exult in pride over what He has given you. And Allah does not like everyone self-deluded and boastful.
This verse highlights the importance of moderation in emotional expression. It teaches that despair over loss and arrogance over gain are both destructive, as they shift the heart away from reliance upon Allah, the Exalted. By contrast, balanced emotions allow a person to remain grounded, to accept divine decree with patience, and to respond to blessings with gratitude. Maintaining a balanced emotional state enables a person to navigate challenges successfully, gaining peace, rewards, and blessings in both this life and the hereafter. When emotions are regulated within the framework of divine guidance, they become tools for spiritual growth rather than obstacles. Sadness can inspire humility and reliance upon Allah, the Exalted. Joy can inspire gratitude and generosity. Fear can inspire caution and obedience. Hope can inspire perseverance and trust. Each emotion, when balanced, contributes to a holistic and healthy spiritual life. By using these faculties wisely, through reflection, observation, and measured emotional expression, one can achieve a balanced mental and physical state. This balance allows a person to correctly place everything and everyone in their life, giving priority to what truly matters, and avoiding undue attachment to what is temporary. In this way, they achieve peace of mind in both worlds, as their emotions are aligned with faith and their responses are guided by wisdom. But the one who fails to utilize these faculties correctly, as this contradicts their desires, will inevitably misuse the blessings they have been granted. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 10.
Little are you grateful.
As a consequence of failing to utilize the faculties granted by Allah, the Exalted, their mental and physical well-being will inevitably become unbalanced. This imbalance manifests in confusion and disorder, as they struggle to prioritize properly, misplacing people, responsibilities, and resources within their life. Loved ones may be undervalued, worldly pursuits may be overemphasized, and obligations may be neglected. Such misplacement leads to chaos in both personal and social spheres, preventing them from living with clarity and purpose. In addition, they will fail to prepare adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Instead of using their faculties to recognize truth, obey divine commands, and avoid prohibitions, they will squander their blessings in heedlessness. This negligence leaves them vulnerable to regret and hardship when they stand before Allah, the Exalted, with little to show for their time in the world. The Day of Judgment will expose the consequences of their misplaced priorities, and no excuses or worldly comforts will shield them from divine justice. Even if they enjoy temporary worldly comforts and luxuries, these pleasures will not prevent the stress, difficulties, and turmoil that arise from a life lived in disobedience to Allah, the Exalted. Wealth, fame, and indulgence may provide fleeting satisfaction, but they cannot cure the inner restlessness that comes from neglecting spiritual responsibilities. The heart remains unsettled, the mind remains troubled, and the body suffers under the weight of imbalance. Such individuals may appear outwardly successful, yet inwardly they are plagued by anxiety, dissatisfaction, and despair. True peace and fulfillment remain unattainable for those who neglect their spiritual responsibilities. Their enjoyment in this world will ultimately be shallow and fleeting, like a mirage that disappears when approached. Only those who use their faculties in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, achieve lasting tranquility, for they align their lives with divine wisdom. By preparing for accountability, prioritizing correctly, and living with humility and gratitude, they secure peace of mind in this world and eternal success in the hereafter. But as correctly using the faculties and blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires of people, many will persist in disobeying Him. The pursuit of desires blinds them to the wisdom of divine guidance, and rather than submitting to the truth, they seek excuses to justify their rebellion. Instead of acknowledging the responsibility that comes with divine blessings, they attempt to dismiss or distort the truth so that they can continue in their chosen path of indulgence. This is not a new phenomenon. It has been witnessed throughout history. As mentioned earlier, the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca employed various methods to discourage others from accepting Islam, driven by fear of losing their leadership and social influence. Their concern was not about truth or falsehood, but about maintaining worldly power. One such method was to challenge the concept of resurrection, exaggerating it in order to make it sound absurd and impossible. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 10.
And they say, when we are lost within the earth, will we indeed be recreated in a new creation?
This verse highlights a common tactic used by those who wish to dismiss concepts that conflict with their desires: exaggeration. By inflating the matter beyond its reality, they attempt to ridicule it, thereby making it appear unreasonable and untrue. This distortion then serves as justification for rejecting the concept altogether. Such behavior is not limited to theological objections, but can be observed in everyday life. For example, when an individual persists in mistreating others, such as relatives, and is advised to instead show respect and good conduct, they may excuse their behavior by claiming that such counsel requires them to be flawless like an angel, never displaying even the slightest negative behavior. Since human perfection is unattainable, they dismiss the original advice, which was both practical and achievable, as unrealistic. In doing so, they justify their misconduct and avoid making the necessary changes for the better. This attitude of exaggeration and dismissal prevents individuals from assuming responsibility for their actions, inevitably leading to misguidance. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 10.
Rather, they are, in the meeting with their Lord, are disbelievers.
Neglecting personal accountability stunts the development of character and fosters the misuse of blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. When a person refuses to acknowledge their faults and avoids reform, their faculties of hearing, sight, and emotional reflection are wasted. This negligence results in both mental and physical disorder, causing individuals to misplace priorities and relationships in their lives. They become consumed by trivial matters, while neglecting what truly matters: obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and preparation for the Day of Judgment. Regardless of any material wealth they may possess, this failure to take responsibility leads to stress, hardship, and adversity in both this life and the hereafter. Worldly luxuries cannot shield the heart from turmoil when it is deprived of faith and accountability. Such individuals may appear outwardly successful, yet inwardly they are plagued by anxiety, dissatisfaction, and despair. Their wealth and status become hollow, for they cannot provide the peace that comes only from submission to Allah, the Exalted. Furthermore, evading responsibility prevents individuals from fulfilling the rights of others, thereby contributing to the spread of corruption and injustice within their communities. When people refuse to reform themselves, society suffers collectively, as injustice and oppression take root. Families are fractured, communities are weakened, and trust is eroded. The refusal to accept accountability thus harms not only the individual, but also the wider society. In conclusion, the exaggeration of truth to dismiss it, and the refusal to accept responsibility, are not merely personal flaws but destructive attitudes that harm both the individual and the community. True wisdom lies in humility, acknowledging one's faults, striving for reform, and preparing for accountability before Allah, the Exalted. Only by embracing responsibility and rejecting distortion can one use their faculties and blessings correctly, thereby achieving peace in this world and salvation in the hereafter. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 10.
And they say, when we are lost within the earth, will we indeed be recreated in a new creation?
Denying the possibility of humans being resurrected on the Day of Judgment is indeed a strange and irrational claim, for the signs of resurrection are continuously displayed throughout creation in ways that are both visible and undeniable. Allah, the Exalted, has placed countless examples in the natural order of the world to remind humanity of His power to bring the dead back to life. These examples are not abstract or hidden. They are experienced daily, monthly, and yearly, so that no one can claim ignorance of the reality of resurrection. Consider the rain which descends from the sky. It revives barren land, transforming it into fertile ground that produces crops and sustenance. A dead seed buried in the soil bursts forth alive, providing nourishment for creation. This process is a direct sign of Allah's ability to bring life from death. Just as He causes a lifeless seed to sprout, He will cause the human being buried in the earth to rise again. The comparison is deliberate and clear. The seed is a symbol of humanity, and its revival is a reminder of the certainty of resurrection. The changing of the seasons also demonstrates resurrection in a vivid and accessible way. During winter, the leaves of trees die and fall, leaving the tree appearing lifeless and barren. Yet when the seasons change, the same tree is clothed once again with leaves, blossoms, and fruit, appearing full of life. This cycle of death and renewal is a visible reminder that life after death is not only possible, but is part of the divine order. The alternation of seasons is a lesson for those who reflect, showing that death is not the end but a transition to another stage decreed by Allah, the Exalted. Resurrection is not only seen in the external world, but also within the human body itself. Cells are constantly dying and being replaced, such as skin cells, showing that renewal is a continuous process decreed by Allah, the Exalted. The body itself is a living testimony to the reality of resurrection, as it undergoes cycles of death and renewal every moment. This ongoing process is a sign that the one who sustains life in such intricate detail is fully capable of restoring life after death. Even the sleep-wake cycle is a form of resurrection. Sleep is described as the sister of death, for during sleep the senses are cut off and the soul is taken. Yet Allah, the Exalted, returns the soul to the sleeper if they are destined to live on, thereby granting them life once again. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
The certainty of the Day of Judgment is undeniable, for it is a reality that must occur. When one sincerely reflects upon the universe, they will observe countless examples of balance and precision, which testify to the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted. The earth itself is positioned at a perfectly balanced distance from the sun. If it were even slightly closer, the heat would scorch life. If it were slightly further, the cold would freeze it. This delicate positioning ensures that the earth remains inhabitable and capable of sustaining creation. Similarly, the water cycle, whereby water evaporates from the oceans, condenses in the atmosphere, and returns as rain, is perfectly balanced to sustain life. Without this cycle, crops would fail, rivers would dry, and creation would perish. Even the ground demonstrates balance. It is soft enough for fragile shoots to penetrate and grow, yet firm enough to support the weight of towering buildings. These examples not only point to the existence of a creator, but also to His establishment of balance in all things. Yet, amidst this universal balance, one obvious imbalance remains: the actions of mankind. One often observes oppressive and tyrannical individuals who escape punishment in this world, while countless oppressed people endure hardship without receiving their full reward. Many Muslims who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, face difficulties and trials, receiving only a portion of their reward in this life, whereas those who openly disobey Him often enjoy worldly luxuries. Just as Allah, the Exalted, has set balance in creation, the reward and punishment of human actions must also be balanced. Since this balance is not fully realized in this world, it must occur in another time, namely, the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, could reward and punish fully in this world, but His wisdom dictates otherwise. One of the reasons is that He grants opportunity after opportunity for people to repent sincerely and correct their behavior. If punishment were immediate and absolute, repentance would be impossible. Likewise, He does not grant Muslims their full reward here, for this world is not paradise. The true reward awaits in the hereafter. Belief in the unseen, specifically, the certainty of reward in the next life, is a cornerstone of faith. Faith is distinguished by trust in what cannot be perceived by the five senses. If all reward and punishment were visible in this world, faith would lose its depth and meaning. Having fear of full punishment and hope in receiving full reward in the hereafter motivates a believer to abstain from sin and to perform righteous deeds. This balance of fear and hope is essential, as it restrains desires and inspires obedience. It ensures that one lives with accountability, knowing that every action will be weighed and recompensed. For the day of recompense to commence, this material world must end. Punishment and reward can only be given once the actions of all people have concluded. As long as life continues, deeds are still being performed, and accountability cannot yet begin. Therefore, the day of judgment necessitates the end of the material world, sooner or later. This end is not destruction without purpose, but the transition to a greater reality where justice will be perfected. Reflecting upon this discussion strengthens faith in the day of judgment. It encourages preparation by using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, correctly, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such reflection leads to peace of mind and success in both worlds. It cultivates a balanced mental and physical state, enabling one to correctly place everything and everyone in their life according to divine wisdom. In this way, belief in the Day of Judgment transforms daily living, guiding one to gratitude, patience and obedience, while ensuring eternal success in the hereafter. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
Allah, the Exalted, reminds humanity that just as they have no power to avert death from themselves, a reality universally acknowledged and undeniable, they will likewise have no ability to avert accountability on the Day of Judgment. Death is the most certain of all events, and no wealth, influence, or strength can prevent it. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 11.
Say, the angel of death will take you who has been entrusted with you. Then to your Lord you will be returned.
This verse establishes two profound truths. First, death is inevitable and beyond human control. The angel of death has been entrusted with this responsibility, and when the appointed time arrives, no one can delay or escape it. Second, death is not the end but the beginning of accountability. Every soul will be returned to Allah, the Exalted, who will judge them with perfect justice. Reflecting on this reality should humble a person, reminding them of their limitations and dependence upon Allah, the Exalted. Just as they cannot resist death, they cannot resist standing before their Lord. This awareness should inspire obedience, repentance, and preparation for the hereafter. It should also discourage arrogance and heedlessness, for worldly power and possessions cannot shield anyone from death or accountability. In truth, the certainty of death is itself a sign of the certainty of the Day of Judgment. If one cannot deny death, they should not deny resurrection and accountability, for both are decreed by the same Lord. Recognizing this connection strengthens faith, encourages patience in trials, and motivates righteous deeds, ensuring that when the angel of death fulfills his duty, one is ready to return to Allah, the Exalted, with hope of mercy and reward. If one persists in rejecting or ignoring their accountability on the Day of Judgment, as preparing for it contradicts their worldly desires, then they will inevitably continue to misuse the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted them. This misuse is not a minor matter. It reshapes their entire existence. In this world, their attitude prevents them from achieving a balanced mental and physical state, causing them to misplace everything and everyone within their life. Family, friends, career, and wealth, all of which could have been sources of comfort and support, become instead sources of stress and turmoil. When such individuals persist in disobedience, they begin to blame the wrong things and people for their difficulties. They may accuse their spouse, their relatives, or their circumstances, rather than recognizing that their own misuse of blessings is the true cause of their distress. In cutting good people out of their lives, they only deepen their isolation, which increases their vulnerability to mental disorders. This downward spiral often leads to depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. Such outcomes are clearly observable in those who persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, such as the rich and famous. Despite enjoying worldly luxuries, their lives are often marked by inner turmoil, instability, and despair. Yet, the consequences in this world are only a shadow of what awaits in the hereafter. Because their attitude prevented them from preparing for accountability, their punishment on the day of judgment will be far worse. At that time, no further chances will be given to reform their behavior. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 12.
If you could but see when the criminals are hanging their heads before their Lord, saying, Our Lord, we have seen and heard, so return us to the world, we will work righteousness. Indeed, we are now certain.
This verse illustrates the regret and humiliation of those who denied accountability. They will confess that they have now seen and heard the truth, and they will plead for another chance to return to the world to act righteously. But their plea will be rejected, for the time of action will have passed. Their certainty will come too late, and their regret will not save them. A person should recognize that regrets fall into two distinct categories, each carrying very different weight and consequences. The first are regrets tied to worldly matters, such as not marrying, not having children, or missing out on certain opportunities. These regrets, regardless of their nature, are never permanent. They may fade when one fulfills their desire, changes their perspective, or ultimately when death arrives. Their duration is limited to the span of earthly life, and their impact is relatively minor. While they may cause sadness or disappointment, they do not lead to punishment or torment. Moreover, if a person enters paradise through the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, all worldly regrets will vanish entirely, replaced by eternal contentment. This demonstrates that worldly regrets, though painful at times, are temporary and insignificant when compared to the eternal realities of the hereafter. The second category, however, is far more serious, the regrets of the hereafter. These regrets arise in the grave and on the day of judgment, when a person realizes they did not use their blessings, resources, and opportunities to please Allah, the Exalted. Unlike worldly regrets, these are long-lasting, for the time in the grave and on Judgment Day far exceeds the short span of earthly life. They will not end until one enters paradise, which may never occur, or may only happen after an unimaginably long period. Chapter 22 Al-Hajj, verse 47.
And indeed, a day with your Lord is like 1,000 years of those which you count.
This verse reminds people that the scale of time in the hereafter is vastly different from that of the world, making the weight of regret far heavier. A single day of regret in the hereafter is equivalent to 1,000 years of worldly time, showing how unbearable and prolonged such regret can be. These regrets are significant because they may lead directly to punishment and torment. Unlike worldly disappointments, which fade with time or change of circumstance, the regrets of the hereafter are tied to eternal consequences. They represent missed opportunities to obey Allah, the Exalted, and to prepare for accountability, and they cannot be undone once death has arrived. Therefore, a person should reflect deeply on this reality and show kindness to themselves by striving to remove the potential regrets of the grave and the day of judgment, before attempting to remove the regrets of this world. True wisdom lies in prioritizing eternal matters over temporary concerns. By using blessings correctly, obeying Allah the Exalted, and living with gratitude and humility, a person ensures peace of mind in this life and salvation in the next. To focus excessively on worldly regrets while neglecting eternal ones is to misplace priorities, for worldly regrets will eventually vanish, but eternal regrets may endure with torment. A person who is sincere in their reflection will realize that preparing for the hereafter is the greatest act of kindness they can show themselves, as it secures everlasting peace and removes the possibility of serious regrets. Chapter 89 Al-Fajr, verses 23 to 24.
And brought within view that day is hell. That day man will remember, but how, i.e., what good to him will be the remembrance? He will say, Oh, I wish I had sent ahead some good for my life.
As Allah, the Exalted, does not impose right guidance upon people, since doing so would nullify the very purpose of the test of life in this world, one must never be deceived by the free will they have been granted into imagining that they will escape accountability for their deeds. Free will is a gift, but it is not a shield from responsibility. It is a means by which people demonstrate their sincerity, their obedience, and their gratitude, or conversely, their arrogance, negligence, and rebellion. To confuse free will with exemption from accountability is to fall into a dangerous delusion that undermines the very foundation of existence. Free will and accountability are two distinct realities. The presence of the former does not cancel the certainty of the latter. Free will allows a person to choose between right and wrong, but accountability ensures that every choice is weighed and recompensed. This balance between freedom and responsibility is what gives meaning to human life. Without accountability, free will would be meaningless, for choices would carry no consequence. Without free will, accountability would be unjust, for people would be judged for actions they had no power to control. Together, they form the framework of the divine test, ensuring that every person is judged fairly according to their own decisions. The one who truly understands this truth will use their free will correctly, directing it toward obedience to Allah, the Exalted. They will employ the blessings He has granted in accordance with His teachings, recognizing that every blessing is both a gift and a trust. This proper use of free will ensures that a person achieves a balanced mental and physical state. It allows them to place everything and everyone in their life in its rightful position, giving priority to what deserves priority, and avoiding undue attachment to what is temporary. Such a person lives with clarity, purpose, and peace, while also preparing adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Their obedience and gratitude lead to tranquility in this world and eternal success in the next. In contrast, those who falsely believe that free will exempts them from accountability will persist in disobedience, misusing the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted them. Their misuse leads to imbalance, both mentally and physically. They misplace priorities, undervalue relationships, and misuse resources, creating disorder in their lives. Family, friends, career, and wealth, blessings that could have been sources of comfort, become instead sources of stress and turmoil. Their negligence prevents them from preparing for accountability, leaving them vulnerable to regret and punishment. This misguided attitude inevitably results in stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds. Even if they enjoy some worldly luxuries, these pleasures cannot shield them from inner turmoil. Their enjoyment remains shallow and fleeting, unable to provide true fulfillment. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 13.
And if we had willed, we could have given every soul its guidance. But the word from me will come into effect that I will surely fill hell with jinn and people altogether.
Reflecting on this truth should awaken the heart to the urgency of obedience, gratitude, and preparation. Free will is a trust, not a license for heedlessness. It is a means of proving one's devotion, not an excuse for indulgence. Those who recognize this will use their freedom wisely, ensuring that their choices lead to balance, peace, and eternal success. Those who ignore it will find that their freedom was only a path to regret, torment, and destruction. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 14.
So taste punishment, because you forgot the meeting of this your day. Indeed, we have accordingly forgotten you. And taste the punishment of eternity, for what you used to do.
It is important to note that this verse concludes with a clear warning of eternal punishment, based on a person's actions. This reminder establishes that faith is not merely a verbal declaration, but a living reality that must be supported through obedience and the correct use of the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. The one who persists in misusing these blessings, despite professing belief, places themselves in real danger of losing their faith altogether. Such a person risks allowing their verbal claim to become hollow, for faith without action is vulnerable to erosion and eventual extinction. Faith may be likened to a delicate flame that requires constant tending. Just as a fire, no matter how bright, will inevitably die out if deprived of fuel, faith weakens and may be extinguished if not sustained through consistent acts of obedience. Righteous deeds are the fuel that keeps this flame alive. Without them, the flame flickers, grows dim, and may vanish entirely, leaving the heart in darkness. This analogy highlights both the fragility and the potential strength of faith, fragile when neglected, yet enduring and radiant when nourished. Neglecting this spiritual nourishment places a person at risk of losing the very light that guides them. Faith is the light by which truth is distinguished from falsehood, by which hope is sustained in trials, and by which the soul finds peace. To lose this light is the most devastating of all losses, for it leaves a person blind to guidance, vulnerable to despair, and exposed to misguidance. Worldly possessions, status, or comforts cannot replace this loss, for they cannot provide the clarity, peace, or salvation that faith alone brings. Thus, the warning of eternal punishment is not merely a distant threat, but a reminder of the consequences of neglecting the flame of faith. It calls people to vigilance, urging them to protect and nourish their belief through obedience and gratitude. The one who tends their flame will find it growing into a source of warmth, light, and guidance, leading them to peace in this world and salvation in the hereafter. The one who neglects it, however, risks losing everything, both in this life and in eternity. Therefore, one must recognize that a verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, is incomplete unless it is supported by consistent and sincere actions. True belief requires practical obedience, demonstrated through the correct use of the blessings Allah has granted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 15.
Only those believe in our verses who, when they are reminded by them, fall down in prostration.
This verse emphasizes that genuine faith manifests itself in submission, humility, and obedience. It is not enough to merely acknowledge the truth verbally. One must act upon it, showing devotion through worship and righteous conduct. Yet, obeying Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires and aspirations of people. Those who remain firm in obedience will inevitably face criticism, mockery, or opposition from others. This is because the world is a place of tests, and every person, whether obedient or disobedient, will face trials. The difference lies in how these trials are approached. For the believer, difficulties become opportunities to demonstrate patience and reliance upon Allah, the Exalted. For the disobedient, they become excuses for rebellion and despair. Thus, an essential aspect of obedience is to glorify Allah, the Exalted, by refusing to attribute anything negative to Him, whether it be the criticism of others or the hardships of life. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 15.
And glorify Allah.
Glorifying Allah, the Exalted, means acknowledging His wisdom in all circumstances and maintaining a positive mindset. This mindset is not merely an emotional attitude, but a spiritual discipline. It enables a person to navigate challenges without losing sight of their purpose. Obedience involves using blessings in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, and cultivating gratitude even in times of loss. When hardships arise, one should remember that the situation could have been far worse. If the difficulty is worldly, one should be thankful that it does not harm their faith. Instead of dwelling on immediate sorrow, they should focus on the eternal reward promised to those who endure patiently for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. When a person loses certain blessings, they should reflect on the multitude of blessings they still enjoy. Every trial carries hidden wisdoms, even if they are not immediately apparent. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
This verse teaches that human perception is limited, and what appears harmful may in fact be beneficial, while what appears desirable may lead to harm. Recognizing this truth fosters humility and trust in Allah, the Exalted, and strengthens the resolve to remain obedient despite difficulties. In conclusion, cultivating a positive mindset is essential for correctly glorifying Allah, the Exalted, by avoiding the attribution of negative things to Him. One must remember that the cup is not half empty but half full, for this perspective encourages gratitude even in times of trial. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 15.
And glorify with praise of their Lord.
Gratitude to Allah, the Exalted, for His countless and continuous blessings, is the upright and fair response of a servant to their Lord. Gratitude manifests in three ways: through intention, by acting solely to please Allah, the Exalted; through speech, by speaking good words or choosing silence over harm; and through action, by using blessings in ways that align with divine guidance. This comprehensive practice of gratitude leads to additional blessings, tranquility, and success in both worlds. It ensures a balanced mental and physical state, and allows a person to correctly position everything and everyone in their life according to divine wisdom. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
It is vital to understand that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, benefits only the individual, for His infinite status is unaffected by the actions of people. Whether one obeys or disobeys, Allah, the Exalted, remains perfect in His majesty, power, and authority. This truth is a safeguard against arrogance, for it prevents a person from falsely imagining that their obedience is a favor done to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 15.
And they are not arrogant.
Arrogance is a subtle yet destructive trait. When a person believes that their worship or obedience elevates Allah, the Exalted, they corrupt their sincerity. This mindset hinders genuine submission, especially when personal desires conflict with divine commands. Instead of yielding to the will of Allah, the Exalted, they may resist, thinking their obedience optional or unnecessary. Such arrogance leads them off the right path, depriving them of the blessings that come with humility and sincerity. By contrast, those who recognize that their faith and obedience ultimately serve their own benefit cultivate humility before Allah, the Exalted. They understand that obedience is a means of purifying the soul, strengthening character, and attaining peace. This humility anchors them in steadfastness, ensuring dedication to obedience in both hardship and ease. In times of trial, they exhibit patience, refraining from complaint and trusting in divine wisdom. In times of comfort, they express gratitude, acknowledging that blessings are gifts to be used in accordance with the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Consequently, an individual who consistently behaves in alignment with this appropriate conduct, combining humility, patience, and gratitude, receives unwavering support and compassion from Allah, the Exalted. This support manifests in peace in both worlds. In this life, they attain a balanced mental and physical state, correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. They avoid misplacing priorities, relationships, and resources, living with clarity and purpose. In the hereafter, they secure salvation and eternal tranquility. This reality is affirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 7500, which illustrates that those who remain steadfast in obedience and gratitude are enveloped in divine mercy. Their humility ensures that their deeds are accepted, their patience secures reward, and their gratitude multiplies blessings. Thus, the one who understands that obedience benefits only themselves will live with sincerity, balance, and peace, while the arrogant will deprive themselves of these treasures. Despite the fact that obeying Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires of people, the one who truly understands that peace of mind is only obtained through obedience will avoid arrogance and instead humbly submit to the divine code of conduct. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 15.
And they are not arrogant.
This verse highlights that arrogance is incompatible with genuine faith. A person who recognizes that obedience is for their own benefit will not imagine that they are doing Allah, the Exalted, a favor. Instead, they will acknowledge that submission is the path to balance, clarity, and peace. Therefore, a person must accept and act upon Islamic teachings for their own sake, even when these teachings contradict their desires. The situation may be likened to a wise patient who accepts and follows the medical advice of their doctor, knowing it is best for them, even though they are prescribed bitter medicines and a strict diet plan. The patient endures temporary discomfort because they trust that the outcome will be lasting health. In the same way, a person who accepts and acts upon Islamic teachings will achieve good mental and physical health, as well as spiritual clarity. This is because the only one who possesses the complete knowledge required to ensure that a person achieves a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly places everything and everyone within their life, is Allah, the Exalted. The knowledge of human mental and physical states possessed by society, despite extensive research, will never be sufficient to achieve this outcome. Human advice cannot solve every issue a person faces, nor can it prevent all forms of stress or ensure that relationships and priorities are correctly placed. This limitation arises from restricted knowledge, limited foresight, personal biases, and human error. By contrast, Allah the Exalted is free of all limitations, and His guidance is perfect. He has granted this knowledge to mankind, in the form of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This truth becomes evident when one observes those who use the blessings they have been granted, according to Islamic teachings, and those who do not. Those who live by divine guidance achieve balance and peace, while those who misuse blessings often suffer imbalance, stress, and misplacement in their lives. The difference between the two groups is clear, even to an impartial observer. It is worth noting that, in most cases, patients do not understand the science behind the medicines they are prescribed, and therefore they blindly trust their doctor. Allah, the Exalted, however, does not expect people to blindly trust the teachings of Islam. Instead, He invites them to reflect upon His guidance so that they can appreciate its truthfulness and positive effects on their lives. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
This verse demonstrates that Islam is not based on blind faith but on insight, reflection, and recognition of clear proofs. Allah, the Exalted, calls people to approach His teachings with an unbiased and open mind, so that they may see for themselves the wisdom and benefit contained within them. By doing so, they will realize that obedience is not a burden but a mercy, designed to bring peace in this world and salvation in the hereafter. Thus, the lesson is clear. Obedience is not about pleasing Allah, the Exalted, for His perfection is unaffected by human actions. It is about protecting oneself, nourishing faith, and obtaining peace of mind in both worlds, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 16.
They arise from their beds, they call upon their Lord.
Voluntary nighttime worship is one of the clearest proofs of sincerity towards Allah, the Exalted, for it is performed away from the gaze of others. In the stillness of the night, when distractions are few and worldly eyes are closed, a person stands in intimate conversation with their Lord. This act of devotion is a sign of true servanthood, demonstrating that worship is not motivated by recognition or praise but by love and obedience. Its virtues are countless, and a hadith found in Sunan and Nasai, number 1614, advises that it is the best of all voluntary prayers, highlighting its unique status among acts of worship. No one will attain a rank higher on the Day of Judgment or in paradise than the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Significantly, this exalted rank has been directly connected to the voluntary night prayer, showing that those who establish it will be blessed with elevated ranks in both worlds. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 79.
And from part of the night pray with it, i.e., recitation of the Quran as additional worship for you. It is expected that your Lord will resurrect you to a praise station.
This verse demonstrates that night prayer is not only a means of personal closeness to Allah, the Exalted, but also a path to honor and distinction in the hereafter. A hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3579, advises that a person is closest to Allah, the Exalted, in the last part of the night. This time, when the world is silent and hearts are most receptive, is filled with blessings. Remembering Allah, the Exalted, during these hours allows one to draw near to Him in a way unmatched by other moments of the day. All people desire their supplications to be answered and their needs fulfilled. The voluntary night prayer is a powerful means to this end, as a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 1770, advises that there is a special hour in every night when good supplications are always answered. Those who rise to pray during the night place themselves in the best position to have their prayers accepted, thereby securing both worldly relief and eternal reward. Establishing the voluntary night prayer also serves as a shield against sin. It helps a person avoid pointless social gatherings that waste time and corrupt the heart, and it even protects against physical illnesses. This benefit is mentioned in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3549, showing that night prayer strengthens both spiritual and physical well-being. Preparation for this prayer is essential. One should avoid overeating or drinking before bed, as this induces laziness and makes rising difficult. A person should also avoid exhausting themselves unnecessarily during the day, and a short nap can help restore energy for worship at night. Most importantly, one should strive to obey Allah, the Exalted, by fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and facing destiny with patience. Those who live in obedience find it easier to rise for night prayer, for their hearts are already inclined towards worship. Finally, the night prayer hadith indicates the importance of never giving up hope. The door to repentance and success is always open, and every day and night presents an opportunity to return sincerely to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 16.
They arise from their beds, they call upon their Lord in fear and aspiration.
It is essential to understand that there is a vast difference between true hope in Allah, the Exalted, and mere wishful thinking. True hope is a noble quality that inspires obedience, repentance, and perseverance, whereas wishful thinking is a delusion that leads to negligence and ruin. Wishful thinking occurs when a person fails to strive in the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, by neglecting His commands, disregarding His prohibitions, and refusing to face destiny with patience as taught by the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, yet still expects forgiveness and mercy in both worlds. Such an attitude is empty and baseless, for it misuses the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, while presuming upon His mercy without effort. This false hope can be likened to a farmer who neglects his field. He fails to plant seeds, refuses to water the soil, and makes no effort to protect the crop, yet still imagines that he will reap a bountiful harvest. His expectation is absurd, for effort is the necessary condition of reward. In the same way, a person who abandons obedience and repentance, but still expects salvation, is deceiving themselves. Their hope is not true reliance upon Allah, the Exalted, but wishful thinking that blinds them to reality. True hope, by contrast, is grounded in sincere striving. It is when a person dedicates themselves to obeying Allah, the Exalted, and whenever they slip, they turn back in repentance, seeking His mercy and forgiveness. This is like a farmer who plants seeds, waters them diligently, protects them from harm, and then hopes for a fruitful harvest. His hope is meaningful because it is supported by effort. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, summarized this distinction in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2459, making clear that hope without effort is empty, while hope with obedience and repentance is true reliance upon Allah, the Exalted. Generally speaking, a person should cultivate more fear of Allah, the Exalted, during their lifetime, for fear acts as a barrier against sin. Fear restrains desires, curbs arrogance, and prevents disobedience, making it superior to hope in this context. Hope, on the other hand, inspires righteous deeds, especially voluntary acts of worship, but fear is the stronger safeguard against transgression. Fear is like a protective wall that keeps a person from falling into error, while hope is like a guiding light that encourages them to move forward in goodness. Both are necessary, but during life fear must dominate to ensure discipline and restraint. Yet, during periods of illness, hardship, and especially at the time of death, a person should abandon fear and hold firmly to hope in the mercy of Allah, the Exalted. Even if they have spent their life in disobedience, they must not despair, for the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, specifically commanded this in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 2877. At the final moments of life, hope alone should fill the heart, for despair is forbidden and Allah's mercy is vast. This shift from fear to hope ensures that a person dies with tranquility, relying upon the compassion of Allah, the Exalted, rather than being consumed by despair. Thus, the balance between fear and hope is essential: fear during life to prevent sin, and hope at death to secure peace. This balance ensures that one lives with discipline and dies with serenity, relying upon the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, while striving to obey Him throughout their journey. Fear and hope together function like two wings of a bird. Both are necessary for flight toward Allah, the Exalted. If one wing is broken, the bird cannot fly. Similarly, if a person relies only on fear, they may despair, and if they rely only on hope, they may become negligent. But when both are present in balance, the soul soars towards its Lord in obedience. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 16.
They arise from their beds, they call upon their Lord in fear and aspiration.
It is a matter of regret that many people have developed the habit of performing religious rituals, particularly spiritual exercises recommended by individuals, but neither prescribed in the Holy Quran nor by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, with the sole aim of attaining worldly benefits, such as securing a spouse, a child, or a visa. While supplicating for worldly provisions is not prohibited in Islam, the problem arises when the intention behind worship is reduced to material gain, or when worldly desires are given precedence over spiritual blessings, such as tranquility of heart in both worlds. In such cases, the result is loss in both realms. This is especially true in the hereafter, for such individuals have failed to prioritize eternal success in their intention. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 200.
And among the people is he who says, Our Lord, give us in this world, and he will have in the hereafter no share.
This verse highlights the danger of restricting one's supplications to worldly matters. When a person asks for specific worldly things, they do so without knowing whether those things are truly beneficial for them. Human beings lack the foresight to determine the outcome of their desires, and what they seek may in fact be harmful both in this world and in the hereafter. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
It is therefore essential for a person to adopt humility before Allah, the Exalted, and to acknowledge their ignorance regarding the future. They must not act as if they know what is best for them, but rather submit to His wisdom and trust His decisions. This humility is the foundation of true worship, for it recognizes that Allah, the Exalted, alone possesses perfect knowledge and foresight, while human beings are limited and fallible. Adopting a worldly attitude towards Islam is disliked. Instead, one should strive to perform religious rituals for the sake of pleasing Allah, the Exalted, and attaining peace of mind in both worlds. This was the attitude of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and his companions, may Allah be pleased with them. They remained content with whatever Allah, the Exalted, granted them, knowing it was best for them, even if its wisdom was not immediately apparent. They remained steadfast in using their blessings in ways pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This alone leads to true success and serenity in both worlds, far superior to demanding specific worldly things while ignorant of their consequences. Chapter 16 An-Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
And chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 201.
But among them is he who says, Our Lord, give us in this world that which is good, and in the hereafter that which is good, and protect us from the punishment of the fire.
This supplication demonstrates the proper attitude, asking for general good in both worlds rather than demanding specific outcomes. The good mentioned here is intentionally broad, encompassing anything that is used in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in Islamic teachings. Anything misused in vain or sinful ways can never be truly good, for it leads to imbalance in mental and physical health, misplacement of priorities, and failure to prepare for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such misuse results in stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds, even if one enjoys temporary worldly luxuries. It is striking to observe that a person readily accepts medicines prescribed by a doctor, without demanding specific treatments, trusting that the doctor has chosen what is best for their mental and physical health. Yet, they often fail to place this level of trust in Allah, the Exalted, demanding specific things from Him, as though they know what is best for them. This attitude reveals a contradiction. They trust the limited knowledge of a human being, but hesitate to trust the perfect wisdom of their Creator. A person must therefore accept their lack of knowledge and foresight, and instead ask for general good in this world and the next, leaving the specifics to Allah, the Exalted, who alone knows what is best for each individual. Thus, the wise person concentrates on supplicating for general good as outlined in Islamic teachings, and on correctly using whatever blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted them. In this way, they achieve balance, peace of mind, and success in both worlds, while avoiding the pitfalls of demanding what may ultimately harm them. This attitude transforms worship from a transactional pursuit of worldly gain into a sincere devotion rooted in trust, humility, and submission. It ensures that every act of worship strengthens the heart, purifies the intention, and prepares the soul for eternal success. Chapter 32 As-Sajdah, verse 16.
They arise from their beds, They call upon their Lord in fear and aspiration, and from what we have provided them they spend.
This obedience involves correctly using the blessings one has been granted, in accordance with the guidance of Islamic teachings. Every blessing, whether wealth, health, family, knowledge, or time, carries with it a responsibility. When these blessings are directed towards what pleases Allah, the Exalted, they become a source of harmony rather than chaos. This conscious use of blessings ensures that a person achieves a balanced mental and physical state, for their inner life is not torn by conflicting desires, and their outer life is not consumed by misplaced priorities. By living in this manner, a person learns to correctly place everything and everyone within their life. They give each relationship, responsibility, and resource its rightful position, neither neglecting what is essential nor exaggerating what is temporary. This clarity of placement prevents confusion, stress, and imbalance, allowing them to live with purpose and serenity. At the same time, such conduct prepares them adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment, for they will have used their blessings in ways that testify to their obedience and gratitude. The outcome of this behavior is peace of mind in both worlds. In this life, they experience tranquility, stability, and fulfillment, free from the chaos that comes with misuse of blessings. In the hereafter, they secure salvation and eternal contentment, as their obedience becomes the means of divine mercy. Thus, obedience is not a burden but a path to balance, clarity, and peace, ensuring success in this world and the next. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 17.
And no soul knows what has been hidden for them of comfort for eyes as reward for what they used to do.
Throughout Islamic teachings, the consistent emphasis is placed on supporting one's verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with sincere and righteous actions. Faith that is not reinforced by deeds holds little value, as belief confined to words alone is fragile and easily lost. The individual who fails to strengthen inward belief through obedience inevitably misuses the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. Such misuse prevents the attainment of a balanced mental and physical state, and causes the misplacement of everything and everyone within life. As a consequence, the very elements of existence, family, friends, career, and wealth, become sources of stress rather than comfort. Instead of finding peace in these blessings, the individual experiences turmoil, for misplaced priorities distort perception and relationships. Persisting in disobedience leads to misplaced blame, often directed at those closest, such as a spouse, falsely imagining them to be the cause of distress. Removing such good people from life only deepens imbalance, resulting in mental disorders that may manifest as depression, substance addiction, or even suicidal tendencies. This outcome is evident when observing those who persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, including many among the rich and famous. Despite enjoying worldly luxuries, their lives are often marked by instability, dissatisfaction, and despair. Wealth and fame cannot shield them from the consequences of neglecting obedience, nor can they provide the peace that only comes from faith and submission to Allah, the Exalted. Because their attitude prevented preparation for accountability on the Day of Judgment, their punishment in the hereafter will be far worse. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 18.
Then is one who was a believer, like one who was defiantly disobedient. They are not equal.
The individual who fails to support a verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with actions is in great danger of losing faith altogether. Faith is not static, it requires nourishment to remain alive. It may be likened to a delicate plant that must be tended with acts of obedience in order to flourish and survive. Just as a plant deprived of nourishment, such as sunlight and water, will wither and die, so too will the faith of a person who fails to sustain it with righteous deeds. This is the greatest loss, for the extinguishing of faith deprives the soul of the light that guides in this world, and secures salvation in the hereafter. Therefore, an individual must support the verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with consistent actions by correctly using the blessings He has granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings. This obedience ensures the attainment of a balanced mental and physical state, and enables the proper placement of everything and everyone within life, while also preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such behavior leads to peace of mind in both worlds. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 19.
As for those who believed and did righteous deeds, For them will be the gardens of refuge as accommodation for what they used to do.
Yet, obedience to Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts worldly desires. Many individuals persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, directing them towards indulgence, arrogance, or heedlessness. This misuse results in an unbalanced mental and physical state, where priorities are confused and relationships are strained. Family, friends, career, and wealth, blessings that could have been sources of comfort, become instead sources of stress and turmoil. Even if worldly luxuries are enjoyed, they cannot shield the heart from restlessness. Because such behavior prevents preparation for accountability, the punishment in the hereafter will be far worse. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 20.
But as for those who defiantly disobeyed, their refuge is the fire. Every time they wish to emerge from it, they will be returned to it, while it is said to them, "Taste the punishment of the fire which you used to deny."
It is important to recognize that denial of the hereafter is not limited to verbal rejection. A person may internally believe in it, yet practically deny it by failing to prepare for it through obedience. This subtle form of denial is equally dangerous, for it leads to persisting in disobedience and ultimately results in the consequences described. True belief in the hereafter requires practical preparation, for only through righteous deeds can faith be preserved and salvation secured. Allah, the Exalted, invites people to reflect deeply upon the events they encounter in life so that they may learn from them, return to His obedience, and thereby secure peace of mind in both worlds. This peace is not superficial. It is the result of attaining a balanced mental and physical state, and of correctly placing everything and everyone within life according to divine wisdom. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 21.
And we will surely let them taste the nearer punishment, short of the greater punishment that perhaps they will return.
This verse demonstrates that difficulties and trials in this world are not without purpose. They are reminders, wake-up calls, and opportunities for reflection, intended to guide people back to obedience before the greater punishment of the hereafter. The nearer punishment may take the form of worldly hardships, disappointments, or sudden changes in life, all of which are designed to awaken the heart and remind it of its dependence upon Allah, the Exalted. These experiences are not punishments in the absolute sense, but merciful warnings, urging people to reconsider their path before it is too late. It is therefore essential for a person to understand a key truth. Nothing in creation occurs without a wise reason, even if that wisdom is not immediately apparent. Every occurrence, whether ease or difficulty, should be treated as a message in a bottle. The bottle itself is not the focus, for it is merely the vessel delivering the message, and the true value lies in the message contained within the event. A person who becomes distracted by the outward appearance of the bottle, whether it is attractive or unpleasant, misses the wisdom contained within. Many fall into error by becoming heedless of the message. When good things occur, they may exult excessively, becoming distracted by pride and forgetting the lesson of gratitude and responsibility. They may treat blessings as ends in themselves rather than as signs pointing to Allah, the Exalted. When difficulties arise, they may become consumed by grief, so overwhelmed by sorrow that they fail to perceive the wisdom within the trial. They may see only loss and pain, forgetting that hardship often carries hidden mercy. Chapter 57 Al-Hadid, verse 23.
In order that you not despair over what has eluded you and not exult in pride over what He has given you.
This verse does not prohibit natural emotions of happiness or sadness, for these are part of human nature. Rather, it calls for balance, cautioning against extremes of exultant pride or excessive grief that cloud perception and prevent reflection. A balanced approach allows the mind to focus on the hidden message within each situation, whether ease or difficulty. By maintaining moderation, a person can remain receptive to divine wisdom and avoid being blinded by fleeting emotions. Through assessing, understanding, and acting upon these hidden messages, a person can improve both worldly and religious life. Sometimes the message is a wake-up call to turn back to Allah, the Exalted, before time runs out. At other times, it is a means of raising one's rank, erasing sins, or reminding the heart not to attach itself to the temporal material world and its fleeting possessions. Without such assessment, a person merely journeys through events without growth, failing to benefit from the wisdom embedded within life's circumstances. Reflection therefore transforms every occurrence into an opportunity for spiritual advancement. Ease becomes a reminder of gratitude, difficulty becomes a lesson in patience, and both together serve as pathways to balance, obedience, and peace in this world and the hereafter. Wealth, for example, is not simply a source of comfort, but a test of responsibility, reminding the individual to use it in service of others. Illness is not merely a burden, but a reminder of human frailty, teaching reliance upon Allah, the Exalted, and offering the chance for sins to be erased. Success is not simply an achievement but a lesson in humility, showing that all accomplishments are granted by divine will. Loss is not merely sorrow, but a reminder of detachment, teaching that permanence lies only in the hereafter. In this way, every event becomes a message in a bottle, carrying wisdom that can elevate the soul if properly understood. Those who reflect upon these messages grow in faith, character, and resilience, while those who ignore them drift aimlessly through life, missing the opportunities for transformation that Allah, the Exalted, places before them. As a result, they will not appreciate the signs Allah, the Exalted, shows them in order to reform their behavior. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 22.
And who is more unjust than one who is reminded of the verses of his Lord, then he turns away from them?
Thus, those who fail to learn from the events which occur within their life will persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, by misusing the blessings He has granted them. Their negligence will prevent them from reflecting upon the wisdom behind ease and difficulty, and instead they will continue to indulge in desires and heedlessness. As a consequence, they will obtain an unbalanced mental and physical state, for their inner life will be disturbed and their outward life will be disordered. They will misplace everything and everyone within their life, treating temporary matters as permanent and neglecting what is truly essential. This misplacement will inevitably lead to stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds. Family, friends, career, and wealth, blessings that could have been sources of comfort, will instead become burdens, as their misuse transforms them into causes of anxiety and conflict. Even if worldly luxuries are enjoyed, they will not bring peace, for the heart remains restless when detached from obedience. More dangerously, such behavior prevents adequate preparation for accountability on the Day of Judgment. When the time comes to stand before Allah, the Exalted, these individuals will have no shield, no excuse, and no support, for they failed to use their blessings in the manner prescribed by divine wisdom. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 22.
Indeed, we from the criminals will take retribution.
This verse makes clear that those who persist in disobedience, despite being granted opportunities to reflect and reform, will face divine justice. Retribution is not arbitrary, but a consequence of their own choices, for they denied themselves the chance to benefit from the signs and messages embedded within life's events. Their worldly imbalance will culminate in eternal loss, as they are held accountable for misusing the blessings entrusted to them. In order to avoid the outcome of imbalance and punishment, Allah, the Exalted, has always provided mankind with a divine code of conduct to follow. This code ensures that an individual achieves peace of mind by obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and by correctly placing everything and everyone within life. At the same time, it ensures that society achieves peace and justice through the fulfillment of mutual rights. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 23.
And we certainly gave Moses the scripture, so do not be in doubt over his meeting, i.e. with Allah. And we made the Torah guidance for the children of Israel.
This verse highlights that divine guidance has always been granted to mankind, beginning with earlier communities and continuing until the final revelation. It demonstrates that Allah, the Exalted, has never left humanity without direction, but has consistently provided a framework for both individual and collective well-being. Regardless of how advanced a society may become, and irrespective of the knowledge it acquires across various fields, including the mental and physical aspects of human beings, it remains unattainable for humanity to formulate a code of conduct that is entirely aligned with human nature and capable of accommodating all circumstances, conditions, and scenarios encountered throughout existence. This endeavor is fundamentally impossible, for human knowledge is partial and ever developing. Even today, humanity continues to uncover new insights into specific components of existence, such as the functions at different regions of the human brain. If such basic aspects of human nature are still being discovered, it is inconceivable that mankind could amass sufficient understanding to establish an impeccable code of conduct that fosters tranquility and justice at both the individual and societal level. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the capability to accomplish this, for He is the Creator of all things, and His knowledge is boundless, encompassing the entirety of past, present, and future. Thus, He alone is rightly positioned to provide humanity with a code of conduct, a standard that distinctly separates good from evil, beneficial from detrimental, and facilitates the attainment of peace of mind over a life fraught with stress. Historical evidence unequivocally demonstrates that when this divine code of conduct was effectively implemented in the lives of individuals, it resulted in the proliferation of tranquility, justice, and peace within society. Communities that adhered to divine guidance flourished in fairness and harmony, while those that neglected it fell into corruption and disorder. Consequently, individuals must embrace the divine code of conduct bestowed upon them, recognizing it as the most advantageous for their well-being, even if certain elements may conflict with personal desires. They should conduct themselves as a wise patient who acknowledges and adheres to the medical counsel of their physician, understanding that it is ultimately in their best interest, despite the prescription of unpleasant medications and a stringent dietary regimen. Just as the patient trusts the physician's superior knowledge of health, so must the believer trust Allah, the Exalted, whose knowledge encompasses all realities. By doing so, they secure peace of mind in this world and salvation in the hereafter. This patience on obeying Allah, the Exalted, will ensure one benefits from the divine code of conduct granted to them. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 24.
And we made from among them leaders guiding by our command, when they were patient.
In order to remain steadfast upon the divine path, patience is indispensable, for obedience to Allah, the Exalted, inevitably brings challenges from society. When a person chooses to walk a path different from that of their peers, it often unsettles those around them, particularly when their own choices are rooted in personal desires rather than divine guidance. This discomfort can manifest as criticism, sometimes even from family members, who feel exposed by the contrast between their indulgence and the discipline of the one who adheres to faith. Such criticism is not a reflection of truth but of insecurity, as the presence of obedience highlights the inadequacy of disobedience. Beyond the family, societal pressures intensify. Social media, fashion trends, and cultural norms frequently portray Islamic values as restrictive, framing them as obstacles to ambitions of wealth, popularity, and social standing. Industries that Islam critiques for their excesses and injustices often resist the incorporation of Islamic principles, fearing that such values will expose their flaws. This resistance fuels widespread anti-Islamic sentiments, particularly visible on public platforms where Islam is misrepresented and its followers ridiculed. The promotion of Islam is thus treated as a threat to worldly ambitions, even though it is in reality the key to true peace and justice. Those who strive to adhere to Islamic teachings, which emphasize moderation in desires and the responsible enjoyment of blessings, are often met with hostility from individuals who indulge in excess. Islam describes such behavior as animalistic, driven by impulses rather than reason or discipline. These individuals attempt to dissuade others from accepting Islam and discourage persons from practicing it, luring them instead into a lifestyle of unchecked desires. They frequently target specific aspects of Islam, such as the dress code for women, in an effort to undermine its appeal. Yet perceptive individuals recognize the superficiality of these criticisms. For example, while opponents may object to Islamic dress codes, they remain silent regarding the strict uniforms required in professions such as law enforcement, the military, healthcare, education, and business. This selective criticism exposes the fragility of their arguments, revealing that their opposition stems not from genuine concern but from contempt for Islam's emphasis on self-discipline. Ultimately, it is the principles of Islam and the disciplined conduct of its adherents that provoke such attacks, leading detractors to criticize Islam in any way they can. In every circumstance, a person must remain unwavering in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Such dedication grants serenity and shields them from harmful influences, even if this protection is not immediately visible. Loyalty to Allah, the Exalted, ensures that blessings are used correctly, fostering a harmonious mental and physical state. This enables a person to organize life effectively, prepare for accountability on the Day of Judgment, and attain tranquility in both worlds. Guided by faith, they navigate ease and hardship with peace of mind, securing boundless rewards in this life and the next. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 24.
And we made from among them leaders guiding by our command, when they were patient.
By contrast, those who ignore the commands of Allah, the Exalted, in pursuit of approval from others inevitably lose inner tranquility. Their misuse of blessings leads to mental and physical chaos, disorganization in their lives, and neglect of preparation for accountability. This results in stress, challenges, and difficulties in both worlds, regardless of the material comforts they may enjoy. Their pursuit of worldly approval blinds them to eternal realities, leaving them restless in this life and unprepared for the next. To maintain a resolute mindset, a person must nurture strong faith, for without it they will falter when confronted by the trials of life. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 24.
And we made from among them leaders guiding by our command when they were patient, and when they were certain of our signs.
Strong faith is indispensable for remaining devoted to Allah, the Exalted, in every situation, whether in ease or adversity. It is not a passive quality, but one that must be actively cultivated through understanding and applying the clear signs and teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These divine sources demonstrate with clarity that genuine obedience brings tranquility in this world and the hereafter, providing stability when circumstances change, and peace when the heart is unsettled. Conversely, those who lack knowledge of Islamic principles possess fragile faith, leaving them vulnerable to straying whenever their desires conflict with divine guidance. Their ignorance clouds the truth that surrendering desires in favor of the commands of Allah, the Exalted, is the key to peace in both worlds. Such individuals may chase fleeting pleasures, mistaking them for happiness, yet they remain restless and unfulfilled because they have neglected the eternal wisdom that anchors the soul. It is therefore vital for every person to strengthen their faith through the pursuit of Islamic knowledge and its practical application. Faith is not sustained by mere verbal declaration, but by living according to divine guidance. By doing so, a person remains obedient to Allah, the Exalted, at all times, using their blessings in accordance with His teachings. This obedience ensures a balanced mental and physical state, allowing them to correctly prioritize all aspects of life, family, wealth, health, and influence, without excess or neglect. Faith becomes the anchor that steadies the heart amidst the storms of criticism, temptation, and societal pressure. It transforms challenges into opportunities for growth, temptations into reminders of restraint, and criticism into tests of patience. In this way, faith guides the person to serenity, justice, and eternal reward, ensuring that their journey through life is purposeful, dignified, and secure in both worlds. As Allah, the Exalted, does not force right guidance upon people, for such compulsion would nullify the very purpose of the test of life in this world, He allows each person to freely choose their own path. This freedom of choice is not without consequence, for whether one chooses to obey Allah, the Exalted, thereby securing peace of mind in both worlds, or whether one persists in disobedience and opposition to divine guidance, each person will ultimately be held accountable. Nothing escapes His knowledge or power, and every intention, word, and deed will be weighed with perfect justice. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 25.
Indeed, your Lord will judge between them on the day of resurrection concerning that over which they used to differ.
This verse makes clear that the differences people hold in this world, whether in belief, practice, or values, will not remain unresolved. On the day of resurrection, Allah, the Exalted, will judge between them with absolute fairness. The disputes of this world, whether rooted in ignorance, arrogance, or sincere misunderstanding, will be settled by the one whose knowledge encompasses all things. Thus, the freedom granted to people in this life is a trust, and with it comes responsibility. Those who use their freedom to obey Allah, the Exalted, will find tranquility in this world, and eternal reward in the hereafter. Those who misuse it by rejecting divine guidance will face imbalance and distress in this life, and retribution in the next. The test of life is therefore not about compulsion, but about choice, and the accountability of each person is inevitable. In order to choose the correct path in life, Allah, the Exalted, calls upon people to observe history, and by extension, to reflect upon those around them and the consequences they faced as a result of their choices. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 26.
Has it not become clear to them how many generations we destroyed before them, as they walk among their dwellings? Indeed, in that are signs.
This verse is a profound reminder that the ruins of past nations are not merely relics of history, but living lessons for those who reflect. It warns against falling into a self-absorbed way of life, where one's attention is confined only to personal circumstances, while ignoring the greater realities surrounding them. Such a narrow outlook blinds the heart from recognizing the wisdom that can be drawn from history, personal trials, and the experiences of others. Reflection upon these lessons is one of the surest means of refining character, avoiding repeated mistakes, and finding lasting inner peace. It allows a person to achieve a balanced mental and physical state, and to correctly place everything and everyone within their life. The examples are countless. Observing how the wealthy and renowned misuse the blessings they have been granted, only to be overtaken by anxiety, depression, addiction, or even suicide despite their comforts, teaches that genuine tranquility cannot be purchased through wealth or secured by unchecked desires. Witnessing someone struggle with illness should stir gratitude for one's own health and motivate its proper use before it slips away. Seeing the collapse of once great civilizations reminds us that power and influence are fleeting, and that only obedience to Allah, the Exalted, secures lasting success. Islam therefore urges people to remain mindful and reflective, to look beyond the narrow lens of their own situation, and to extract wisdom from the world around them. Every event, whether joyous or painful, carries a message. Ease is a reminder of gratitude, difficulty is a lesson in patience, and both together are pathways to balance, obedience, and peace in this world and the hereafter. Those who heed these signs grow in wisdom and serenity, while those who ignore them drift aimlessly, repeating the mistakes of the past and forfeiting the opportunity for reform. In addition, as indicated by verse 26, in order to truly benefit from Islamic teachings, one must listen to them correctly. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 26.
Indeed, in that are signs, then do they not hear?
This verse highlights that the signs of Allah, the Exalted, are present all around, yet they can only be recognized and acted upon if a person listens with attentiveness and sincerity. Listening correctly is not a passive act, it requires deliberate effort. It involves carefully listening to Islamic knowledge with humility and focus, connecting that knowledge to one's past experiences so that its relevance becomes clear, evaluating how the teachings can be implemented in the future, and then sincerely striving to act upon them. These steps transform knowledge into practice, ensuring that it penetrates the heart and reshapes behavior. Merely listening without reflection and application will not positively affect a person's conduct. Knowledge left unused is like medicine left on the shelf. It contains the cure but cannot heal unless taken. This is the main reason why many people do not positively change, even though they have more access to Islamic knowledge than ever before. Modern technology has made lectures, books, and resources widely available, yet the absence of correct listening, reflection, and striving has left much of this knowledge dormant. The abundance of information has not translated into transformation, because the essential steps of listening correctly, connecting knowledge to experience, evaluating future application, and striving sincerely are often neglected. Thus, the Holy Quran reminds people that the signs of Allah, the Exalted, are clear, but only those who listen with the intention to act will benefit. True listening is transformative, guiding a person to balance, obedience, and peace in both worlds. After pointing towards history and the destruction of past nations, in order to encourage people to adopt the right path in life, Allah, the Exalted, directs attention to the signs within creation which themselves testify to His oneness and the necessity of obeying Him. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 27.
Have they not seen that we drive the water in clouds?
This verse is not merely a description of a natural process, but an invitation to reflect upon the wisdom embedded within creation. When one observes the perfectly balanced water cycle, it becomes evident that it points unmistakably to a creator. Water from the sea evaporates, rises, and condenses to form rain. This rain, though naturally acidic, descends upon mountains which neutralize it, thereby making it suitable for human and animal use. If there were any alteration in this delicate balance, life on Earth would be harmed. The salt in the sea itself serves a vital purpose. It prevents the contamination of the ocean by the countless dead creatures within it. Were the oceans to become polluted, sea life would collapse, and the impurity would spread to land, overwhelming all forms of existence. The composition of water has been designed with precision, so that sea life can thrive within it while heavy ships can sail upon its surface. If its properties were even slightly different, either sea life would flourish but ships could not sail, or ships could sail but sea life would perish. Both outcomes could not coexist. Yet Allah, the Exalted, has created water in such a way that both are possible simultaneously. Even today, sea transport remains the most widely used method of moving goods across the globe, underscoring the enduring importance of this balance. Rain too is measured with perfection. Too little leads to drought and famine, while too much results in floods and destruction. Chapter 23 Al-Mu'minun, verse 18.
And we have sent down rain from the sky in a measured amount and settled it in the earth. And indeed, we are able to take it away.
This verse reminds mankind that the balance of rain is not guaranteed by human effort, but sustained by divine mercy. The earth itself has been designed to produce provision for creation. The revival of a dead seed into a living plant is beyond human control and clearly indicates the power of a creator. Chapter 32 Sajdah, verse 27.
We drive the water in clouds to barren land and bring forth thereby crops from which their livestock eat and they themselves. Then do they not see?
Here Allah, the Exalted, draws attention to the transformation of barren land into fertile ground, producing crops that sustain both humans and animals. This provision is not the result of human ingenuity alone, but a divine mercy. The same land, watered from the same source, produces fruits of varying qualities. Chapter 13 Ar-Ra'd, verse 4.
And within the land are neighboring plots and gardens of grapevines and crops and palm trees, growing several from a root or otherwise, watered with one water, but we make some of them exceed others in quality of fruit.
This verse highlights the diversity of produce, even when conditions appear identical. A single tree does not yield fruits of equal quality, demonstrating that the outcome is not determined solely by agricultural factors, but by divine will. The variation in produce, despite identical conditions, is a sign that the Creator alone decides the result. Chapter 32 Sajdah, verse 27.
Then do they not see?
This rhetorical question is a call to awaken the heart and mind. The balance of the water cycle, the properties of the oceans, the measured descent of rain, the revival of barren land, and the variation in fruits all testify to the wisdom, power, and oneness of Allah, the Exalted. These signs are not hidden. They are visible to all who observe creation with sincerity. They are manifestations of divine mercy, for they sustain life and provide for the needs of creation. At the same time, they impose responsibility upon mankind, for they remind people that blessings must be used correctly, with gratitude and moderation, and not squandered in heedlessness. Thus, reflection upon these signs leads to recognition of divine mercy and the necessity of human responsibility. Mercy is seen in the provision of water, crops, and fruits, while responsibility is seen in the obligation to use these blessings in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Those who reflect upon these signs will recognize that obedience to Him is the only path to peace and success in both worlds, while those who ignore them remain blind to the truth that surrounds them every day. The leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, fearing the loss of their authority and social influence, employed various methods to discourage others from accepting Islam. Among these was their demand to know the exact timing of the Day of Judgment. When they were not informed, they attempted to use this as false evidence against the truthfulness of Islam. Chapter 32 Sajdah, verse 28.
And they say, when will be this decision if you should be truthful?
This attitude was deeply misguided, for not knowing the precise date of the Day of Judgment does not mean it will not occur. In the same way, the time of death is hidden from people, yet its inevitability is undeniable. Death is a certainty, but its timing is concealed so that individuals remain in a state of readiness. Similarly, the Day of Judgment is certain, but its timing is hidden to ensure that people live each day with awareness and preparation. This concealment is a mercy, for it cultivates a proactive mindset that is far more conducive to success than a reactive one. A wise student, for example, who is aware of the possibility of a surprise test, will prepare consistently each day. In contrast, a student given a fixed date may procrastinate, leaving their preparation insufficient when the test arrives. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 187.
It lays heavily upon the heavens and the earth. It will not come upon you except unexpectedly.
This verse highlights the weight and seriousness of the Day of Judgment. It will arrive suddenly, without warning, and without opportunity for last-minute preparation. It critiques those who claim they will not embrace or implement Islamic teachings until all matters, including the unseen, are made visible to them. Such a perspective is flawed, for true faith lies in belief in realities that cannot be perceived through the five senses, such as the existence of Allah the Exalted and His angels. These unseen realities are not without evidence. They are substantiated by countless signs in the heavens and the earth. Just as the existence of a painting proves the presence of a painter, the existence of creation, with its perfection and balance, points to a creator. Moreover, people rely daily on phenomena they cannot perceive or fully understand. Many consume medicine without comprehending how it functions within the body, yet they trust its effects. In the same way, Islam provides an ethical framework grounded in evidence and rational thought, while also requiring belief in unseen realities. This enhances the value of faith, for belief in what is unseen demonstrates sincerity and trust. If everything were visible, faith would lose its meaning, for belief would no longer be a choice but a compulsion. Consequently, faith that arises only after witnessing the unseen will not be accepted by Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 29.
Say, on the day of decision, the belief of those who had disbelieved will not benefit them, nor will they be reprieved.
This verse emphasizes that belief, after the unveiling of reality, is meaningless. Once the Day of Judgment arrives, the opportunity for choice will have ended. The test of life lies in accepting reality, even when it cannot be directly perceived, and in sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, despite having the capacity to disobey Him. In sending the holy prophets, peace be upon them, and revealing divine scriptures, Allah has ensured that individuals are given sufficient guidance to evaluate their judgment and compliance. Yet He has never revealed reality to such an extent that people would be compelled to accept it without choice. If compulsion were present, the test of life would lose meaning, for success and failure would no longer exist. Therefore, individuals should not expect the unseen to be unveiled before them, such as the direct appearance of Allah the Exalted or His angels. Such an occurrence would mark the conclusion of all things, leaving no room for decision-making. Faith and obedience hold significance only while reality is veiled, allowing for rejection as well as acceptance. If the truth were fully revealed, even the most obstinate disbelievers and sinners would be forced into submission, and faith would lose its value. The acceptance of Islam is meaningful only while choice exists. The moment reality is completely unveiled, will mark the end of the time allotted for decisions and the conclusion of the test of life. That moment is the Day of Judgment. This concealment of the unseen is therefore a mercy, for it cultivates sincerity, discipline, and humility. It ensures that faith is a conscious choice rather than a forced reality, and that obedience is meaningful because it is exercised in the presence of temptation and doubt. Those who prepare daily, who live with awareness of accountability, and who trust in the unseen, will find peace in this world and eternal success in the hereafter. Those who demand certainty before belief will find themselves unprepared when the veil is lifted, for by then the time for choice will have passed. Allah the Exalted makes clear that right guidance is never imposed upon mankind, for compulsion would nullify the very purpose of the test of life in this world. Each individual has been granted free will, and the trial of existence lies in choosing between truth and falsehood. For this reason, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is repeatedly reminded to fulfill his mission of explaining the teachings of Islam, to provide humanity with the perfect role model to follow, and not to concern himself with whether people accept or reject the message. Every soul will ultimately face the consequences of its choice, both in this world and in the hereafter. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 30.
So turn away from them and wait.
And chapter 88 al-Ghashiyah, verses 21 to 22.
So remind you are only a reminder. You are not over them, a controller.
These verses contain timeless wisdom for all who call others to righteousness. They establish that the responsibility of the caller is not to compel belief, but to convey the message with clarity, sincerity, and compassion, leaving the outcome to Allah, the Exalted, who alone guides hearts. This understanding liberates the caller from grief and frustration when their efforts appear fruitless. It prevents despair by reminding them that success is not measured by numbers or worldly recognition, but by faithfulness in delivering the truth. Those who genuinely desire guidance will recognize it when they encounter it, while those who persist in arrogance and heedlessness only harm themselves. The sincere seeker also understands that Allah, the Exalted, never burdens a soul beyond its capacity. Every trial they face is an opportunity to grow in patience, discipline, and faith. They realize that peace in this world and the hereafter requires sacrifice and restraint. They subdue their lower desires, knowing that true satisfaction is not found in indulgence of wealth, status, or fame, but in spiritual fulfillment. This reality is evident when one observes those who appear to possess every worldly advantage, yet remain restless and discontent. Their abundance has not granted them tranquility, because peace of the heart is found only in submission to Allah, the Exalted. Thus, the one who sincerely seeks peace must recognize that real success lies not in compelling others or in chasing worldly pleasures, but in fulfilling their duty, to follow the truth themselves, to share it with compassion, and to entrust the outcome to Allah the Exalted, who guides whom He wills with perfect wisdom. This perspective transforms the caller's role from anxious control to serene trust. It ensures that their efforts remain pure, their patience firm, and their hope anchored in the mercy and justice of Allah the Exalted. It is a reminder that the true measure of success is obedience and sincerity, not worldly acclaim. In this way, the caller becomes a living example of faith, embodying the principle that guidance is a gift from Allah, the Exalted, and that the task of humanity is to deliver the message faithfully while leaving the hearts to be guided by Him alone. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 30.
So turn away from them.
This verse also serves as a clear admonition against the dangers of corrupt companionship. Human beings, by their very nature, are social creatures whose beliefs, habits, and character are profoundly shaped by those with whom they associate. The influence of companionship is never neutral. It is a force that inevitably molds one's values, emotions, and destiny. Sometimes its impact is immediate, while at other times it takes root gradually and imperceptibly. But in every case it is transformative. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, affirmed this reality in a hadith recorded in Sunan Abu Dawood, number 4833, which illustrates the profound effect companions have upon one's spiritual and moral state. He likened companionship to entering a perfume shop or a blacksmith's forge. One who enters the perfume shop inevitably carries away its fragrance, while one who visits the blacksmith is tainted by its smoke. In the same way, a person inevitably absorbs the attitudes, outlook, and conduct of those with whom they spend time. Those who surround themselves with the righteous and sincere will find their hearts naturally inclined toward humility, sincerity, and obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Such companions remind them of their responsibilities, encourage the proper use of the blessings bestowed upon them, and inspire them to prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. In this environment, hearts are uplifted, intentions purified, and conduct refined. They learn balance in mind, body, and spirit, and are guided toward a life of contentment and purpose. By contrast, those who associate with the heedless and misguided inevitably begin to mirror their attitudes and behavior. Though the process may begin subtly, over time it erodes spiritual awareness and weakens the connection with Allah, the Exalted. Such individuals become prone to following their desires, misusing the blessings granted to them, and neglecting their ultimate purpose. This corruption of the soul distorts their perception of right and wrong, causing them to misplace priorities, misuse relationships, and lose harmony in their lives. When remembrance of Allah, the Exalted, is replaced with the pursuit of fleeting pleasures and misguided ideals, the heart becomes restless. No amount of material comfort can fill the void created by spiritual neglect. Outwardly, such individuals may appear successful or content, but inwardly they suffer from anxiety, instability, and dissatisfaction. Their relationships become strained, their minds unsettled, and their hearts weighed down by guilt and regret. The consequences of poor companionship therefore extend beyond this world. They lead to confusion and despair in this life, and to spiritual ruin in the next. In contrast, righteous companionship nurtures inner peace, strengthens faith, and prepares one for eternal success. For this reason, the wise are always deliberate in their choice of friends, seeking the company of those who remind them of Allah, the Exalted, and whose character motivates them to walk the path of truth and virtue. The chapter concludes with a subtle yet profound warning directed at those who persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted. It reminds them that, despite their false conviction that worldly desires and aspirations will secure peace of mind in both worlds, they will inevitably face the consequences of their actions. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 30.
So turn away from them and wait. Indeed, they are waiting.
This verse illustrates that those who reject divine guidance are left to await the outcome of their choices, while the faithful are instructed to remain patient and steadfast. In this world, such disobedience prevents individuals from attaining a balanced mental and physical state. Their misplaced priorities cause them to misalign everything and everyone within their lives. Consequently, their family, friends, career, and wealth, blessings that should bring comfort, become sources of stress and turmoil. When they persist in disobedience, they begin to misdirect blame, accusing the wrong people and circumstances for their inner unrest. Even their closest companions, such as their spouse, may be unjustly held responsible for their distress. Cutting these good influences out of their lives only deepens their imbalance, leading them further into mental disorders. This downward spiral often manifests in depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. Such outcomes are tragically evident when one observes those who misuse the blessings they have been granted, particularly among the rich and famous. Despite their apparent luxuries, they remain restless and discontent, for worldly abundance cannot substitute for spiritual tranquility. More gravely, their heedless attitude prevents them from preparing for accountability on the day of judgment. While worldly imbalance brings misery, the punishment awaiting them in the hereafter will be far worse. Their rejection of divine guidance, coupled with their misuse of blessings, ensures that they will face torment beyond imagination. Thus, the warning of this chapter is both subtle and severe. Peace of mind cannot be attained through indulgence in worldly desires, but only through submission to Allah, the Exalted. Those who ignore this truth will find both worlds filled with regret, while those who obey will discover serenity in this life and salvation in the next. The efforts of those who oppose Islam are destined to fail, just as the efforts of earlier generations who resisted divine guidance proved futile. They wait in vain for the light of Islam to fade, but their struggle is not against mere human beings. It is against Allah, the Exalted. For this reason, they will never overcome the truth of Islam, a reality that history has repeatedly demonstrated. Across the centuries, countless individuals, organizations, and industries have attempted to uproot Islam from society through politics, warfare, propaganda, and in modern times, through social media. Yet Islam has remained firm, and it will continue to stand unshaken until the Day of Judgment. Chapter 9 at Tawbah, verse 32.
They want to extinguish the light of Allah with their mouths, but Allah refuses except to perfect His light, although the disbelievers dislike it.
The light of Islam has already been perfected and delivered to mankind. It is now the responsibility of each individual to decide whether they will embrace it, thereby attaining peace of mind in both worlds. Those who learn and act upon its teachings will secure a balanced mental and physical state, correctly placing everything and everyone within their lives. In doing so, they will adequately prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 32 as Sajdah, verse 30.
So turn away from them and wait. Indeed, they are waiting.
This verse underscores the futility of opposition to divine truth. Those who resist Islam only await the inevitable consequences of their rebellion, while the faithful are instructed to remain patient, steadfast, and confident in the promise of Allah, the Exalted. The enduring resilience of Islam is itself a sign of its divine origin, for no human effort could preserve a message against such relentless opposition across centuries. The one who sincerely seeks peace must therefore recognize that true success lies not in resisting divine guidance, nor in chasing worldly illusions, but in submitting to the perfected light of Islam and entrusting their fate to Allah the Exalted, who guides with perfect wisdom. Therefore, a person must embrace and act upon Islamic teachings for their own well-being, even when these teachings challenge their personal inclinations. Their attitude should resemble that of a sensible patient who follows the instructions of a trusted doctor, fully aware that every prescription, no matter how bitter the medicine or how restrictive the diet, is intended for their benefit. Just as the patient ultimately regains physical and mental wellness through disciplined compliance, the person who aligns their life with Islamic guidance attains inner balance and true stability. This is because only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the complete and perfect knowledge required for a person to reach a sound mental and physical state, and to correctly prioritize all aspects of their life. Human beings, regardless of how advanced their research may become, cannot achieve this level of understanding. Society's knowledge is fragmented and constantly shifting. It cannot address every type of emotional, psychological, or physical hardship a person may face, nor can it provide universally effective solutions. Human advice is limited by incomplete experience, personal preferences, cultural trends, and inherent biases. These limitations make it impossible for human knowledge to offer a flawless path to inner peace, or to ensure that a person places everything and everyone in its proper place. Allah the Exalted alone possesses full insight into the human condition, its inward struggles, its hidden needs, and the sources of both its distress and its contentment. He has conveyed this knowledge through the Holy Quran, and through the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. One only needs to observe the clear difference between those who use their blessings in accordance with Islam and those who do not. The former display steadiness and purpose, while the latter often experience fluctuations, confusion, and inner turmoil. Interestingly, people frequently follow medical instructions without understanding the details behind them. They trust their doctor's expertise, even when they cannot explain the reasoning behind each treatment. Yet Allah the Exalted does not call people to follow His teachings blindly. Instead, He encourages thoughtful reflection so that individuals can recognize the truth and wisdom of Islam on their own. He wants people to witness the profound impact of His guidance through contemplation and experience. But such understanding requires approaching Islamic teachings with fairness, humility, and an open mind. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
This verse emphasizes that genuine adherence to Islam is built upon knowledge, reflection, and clarity. Moreover, peace of mind resides in the spiritual heart, and the spiritual heart is entirely under the control of Allah, the Exalted. No method, no expert, and no worldly system can guarantee the inner serenity that every person seeks. Only Allah, the Exalted, grants or withholds this tranquility. Chapter 53 and name, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
Ultimately, peace of mind is a divine gift granted to those who use the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has given them in accordance with His guidance. When a person lives by Islamic teachings, organizing their priorities, purifying their intentions, and disciplining their desires, they experience a type of serenity that the world cannot provide. Their heart settles, their mind clears, and their life becomes properly ordered. Through this alignment with divine wisdom, they find genuine success and contentment in both worlds. Chapter 16 and now, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.